written notice and electronic notice to the Courier News and the Breeze, posting on the website and bulletin board in the municipal building, and filing with the township clerk. Roll call, please.
Councilman Bucko?
Here.
Councilwoman Isla? Councilman Kirsch?
Yes, here.
Councilman Ring?
Good evening, here.
President Geiger?
Here. Will everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Welcome back, Mayor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item number 4, minutes for approval of June 25th, 2026. Is there any discussion with respect to the minutes from June 25th, 2026? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Township Council reports. Councilman Ring, I'll start with you this time.
All right, thank you. I apologize. I meant to bring a prop with me tonight, and I forgot. But I know at our last meeting, we talked about I used the term newspaper extremely loosely, that are placed at the end of driveways, whether you want one or not. I received one yesterday, and two things of it. There's no news whatsoever in it. It is purely a plastic bag of ads for various vendors, but I did call the phone number on the bag. It's interesting. It's the phone the bag doesn't say if you wish to opt out. It says if you're missing any ads, please call this number. So I did call 1-800-376-6222 today. I was on hold for about 2 minutes, got a very pleasant person. In a matter of 30 seconds, she said, give it at least a week and it should stop. So we'll see. I've allegedly opted out of it, but I agree those things are very annoying. So I don't know if anyone from this group is listening tonight, but I know I received a copy of a petition from a number of residents relative to some land on Foothill Road that I guess is going to be appearing before one of the land use boards, acknowledging it, but also for residents, please understand, situation like this, generally speaking, the township cannot accept a petition, especially before land use, because in order for this to be admitted as evidence or discussed, the other side has to have the right to cross-examine, and they can't cross-examine a piece of paper. So I say that because to the people that signed this petition, if and when this goes before a land use board, highly recommend you go to the land use board and share your opinions there, so they're officially on the record. Other than that, I have some updates we can do in discussion, I guess, regarding the 2 potential ordinance changes we discussed at the last meeting.
Okay.
That's my report.
Okay, thank you. I will give my report. So on June 28th, I attended Yoga Day at the Bridgewater Temple. It was a great event. There was really good dancing, food, and hospitality, and information about all the types of yoga for seniors. So next year, I recommend that to anyone who likes yoga or just wants to be healthier. On July 19th, there will be a health fair at the temple in Bridgewater. It's a huge event. Anyone who's interested in health issues should attend. And the Bridgewater Raritan High School American Lung Cancer Screening Initiative students will have a table there to give information about lung cancer screening. 4th of July, I attended the Hopkinson flag ceremony at the Washington Cantonment. I'm going to let Councilman Kirsch and Councilman Bucko talk more about that. They were there as well. July 17th is a day of remembrance for John Lewis. He died on July 17th, 2020, and he was still in office after serving for 17 years when he died. And for my fun history fact, on June 5th, I acknowledged that it was Jewish Heritage Month, and I spoke about the Lutzgater family, who were very strong Jewish patriots from Bound Brook, which I think at the time was also part of Bridgewater. And I mentioned a Sergeant Aaron Lutzbader from the family who served in the Continental Army and participated in several major engagements in the area. So this week, I get an email from his great, 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 great granddaughter, fifth generation. He was 5 times great. She heard that I had mentioned his name and is also researching his legacy. So that was really, it was just really neat to have. That's my report. Councilman Kirsch.
Thank you, Madam President. On the business side, substantial number of meetings and work has occurred over the last couple of weeks as we pledged, we meaning Councilman Bucko and myself, along with Mr. Pappas, other members of staff, as well as other expertise, and we'll certainly discuss that at length in the appropriate part of the agenda. 3 of us attended the Hopkinson flag, or I should really better call it the Middlebrook Encampment 4th of July ceremony. I'm on the Board of Trustees there. It is a truly unique and proud Bridgewater story, and that was celebrated on the 4th of July despite the heat, with the lowering of essentially last year's Hopkinson flag, the raising of a new, what we'll call this year's Hopkinson flag, and the reading of the Declaration of Independence. My very brief commentary is that, I think most people know the story. The Hopkinson flag, Hopkinson design flag, is the first flag that was authorized in America in 1777 and raised here in Bridgewater Township, despite what you might have learned in school about Betsy Ross in Philadelphia. That didn't happen until 1792. My view on that is that each and every American flag since that time, wherever and whenever it's flown, does trace its heritage to Bridgewater Township. So that's not to say we're better than anybody, but it certainly is a unique part of our history and something for all of us to be proud of. I also had the opportunity, because one Declaration of Independence reading is not enough. On Tuesday evening, I went over to Bound Brook, and there was another reading of the Declaration of Independence, this time by a person in a patriotic garb, and that's my report.
I have a question. The Hopkinson flag in the back of the room, do we know how old that is?
The plaque there probably tells the story of that specific one. That flag is close to the Hopkinson design.
Okay.
The Hopkinson design has 6 pointed stars. The reason for
That one has 5.
is that's the standard of General George Washington, representing when and where he was in residence. So that's really the key difference, is not just the configuration of the stars in I guess what you'd call a rose pattern, but also that it is 6 pointed rather than 5 pointed stars. So that's close, and I know there is high historical significance to that particular flag. They're close.
That flag there was a gentleman who lived in the end of Miller Lane, Herbie Butullo, and he actually had a barn that he built a museum in to the history of America. Was a very big history person. He passed away a couple of years ago. That came out of his property,
Right.
was given to the Friends of the Bridgewater History, who have loaned it to us.
Near the Hawk Watch?
Yes. So if you're going back, there's one point the road curves to the left. He had a big house and barn back there. Very historic piece of property. When I was a kid, before insurance was what it was known as the old man's home. They used to rent rooms to elderly people who would, in exchange for their Social Security check, they provided a room and board to elderly individuals for housing.
Okay. Councilman Bucko?
To the bank,
Thank you very much, Madam President.
the third of the month. That's how I do that.
Very brief. As Councilman Kirsch mentioned, we met with the administration regarding the bond issues that we will touch on later this evening. There was much discussion on that, and I also attended the flag raising ceremony at the Middlebrook encampment, and on the 4th of July, and even though it was cut short due to the weather, it was a very nice ceremony, and very proud to have been part of it this year. It is a reminder to all of us of the rich history that Bridgewater has, and some of it is not told the way it should be. That is my report.
Thank you, Councilman Baco. Councilwoman Isla?
Hi, so thank you. I just wanted to add to the Health Cam of New Jersey that President Geiger has already mentioned. So it is a health screening and disease prevention fair. I'll share it so everyone can register if you're interested. It's at the Hindu Temple right here in One Temple Drive in Bridgewater, the Balaji Mandir. And what's important here is that if anyone is uninsured or underinsured of age 40 or older, there's a list of screening that will be available to you. So a complete blood panel test, EKG or electrocardiogram, eye exam. Eye exams are very important. You don't want to wait until you start losing your sight. Early prevention is critical. Definitely go in for the eye exam. Cardiac evaluation and counseling. Over the 4th of July weekend, one of our family members was actually in the hospital. He had a blockage, my husband's uncle. So, he had to get some emergency surgery. Luckily, he's in stable condition now. But again, don't wait till, you feel like you don't have health insurance, you can't get it done, you have a blockage, you're just going to let it go a little bit longer. He was just sitting on his chair, and then he just collapsed. So luckily, his family was there in New York City, and they were able to take him in. And then there's other things available: dietary, weight management, dental screening. Like I said, I'll share this in social media and anywhere else, so you can pre-register. It's only $10 to pre-register, but you get this whole list of exams for free. And a lot of doctors will be there on site, so you don't have to be South Asian, just go there. I know South Asians have higher risk of certain cardiovascular diseases, as I know from my own family, but definitely take an opportunity. It's just a few minutes drive from here. And then this week, I was at the planning board, a couple of really good applications, not just first or second generation Bridgewater. There was an application where we're looking forward to have a third generation, hopefully, growing up and living in Bridgewater, and then a second application that will hopefully bring in good jobs and stay compliant with all our current neighborhood. So that was on Tuesday. So if you're interested in joining outside of the council meetings, come to these planning board meetings. There's a zoning board meeting coming up on Tuesday as well. And then the youth council did meet yesterday on Wednesday. So the Bridgewater Youth Council is planning to come to the council, to the mayor, and present some ideas for some hopefully some new type of legislative policy work that actually impacts their rights, younger folks 16 and above, not just adults who we mostly talk about here. So just stay tuned for the next, hopefully, council meeting when they're here and they'll speak to us directly. And that's it for today.
Okay. That concludes.
If I could just amend my report, I did forget to mention something at the previous meeting, which I then proceeded to once again forget. I had the opportunity to attend the youth rugby tournament that was held at the Crim soccer fields 3 weekends ago, and it was a lot of youth teams from all over central New Jersey came together for rugby matches. Flag rugby, not any of the real rough pro-level rugby that you probably are used to, but it was a very nice day, and I think a lot of fun was had for all.
Thank you. That concludes the council reports. Mayor's report. Welcome back.
Thank you. I have a couple items. First of all, I believe, Council President, you probably mentioned at the last meeting, but I want to publicly thank you for the invitation to accompany you to the Canadian consulate. And I think I have Councilwoman Isla to also thank by proxy for that opportunity. So it was a really great night, and I appreciate that experience. A couple other things for today's storm. So far, there's no reported flooding issues. There's some trees that came down. and there were some temporary road closures, but there shouldn't be any, we're not aware of any widespread reports of flooding or major issues. Obviously, if residents become available of items, they should contact the township, and we'll continue to monitor the river levels to make sure that there isn't flooding later in the night. The trees for tomorrow, tree planting began last week in Bradley Garden section of town. Approximately 20 trees were planted. There are photos on display that you can take a look at. The chiefs of all the volunteer fire departments have written a letter asking for assistance, asking for us to do an ordinance to provide assistance in snow removal around fire hydrants. Mr. Corsini's office is taking a look at that in terms of providing a potential ordinance for consideration and more discussion with the council on that matter. The 2025 audit has been received, distributed to the council. I want to thank the acting CFO and the finance office staff for their hard work on this. The only recommendation was addressed in the 2026 approved budget, and that was the unanticipated overtime cost for public works for the snow removal at the very end of December. So the amount of $18,000 was funded in this year's budget that was related to last year's expenditures. So that was the only notation in the audit that you all have. And of course, if you have any questions, you want to meet with staff on anything, just obviously let us know and we'll arrange for all of that. Two other items I just wanted to point out, and I'd appreciate the council's consideration for potentially taking them out of order. The first one is we have an appointment on the agenda tonight for Kirsten Forsyth, who is here with us this evening for the appointment to the Youth Services Commission. Kirsten I met with a couple weeks ago now, but I'm not going to share all of her story. If she wants to, she can share all of it. But she has her family has had their own experience, significant experience over the past this past year with issues of mental health and issues of social interactions with students, both in the high school, outside of the high school. And I think that her story, her experience as a parent, as a resident, would be give the Youth Services Commission a very different perspective of somebody who can understand the need for certain services that the Youth Service Commission does provide or could provide in the future. And I think she would be a wonderful opportunity, a wonderful asset to the township. And I think it would give the township a lot of benefits, as well as Kirsten an opportunity to turn a tragic situation into one of positivity and help for others. So she is here tonight. You have her resume. So I'd ask you at some point in time if you could consider potentially, she can stay here through the whole meeting, but I don't know if the bond discussion is as, if we could consider that.
It's gripping.
What's that? Yeah, the bond discussion, yes. So, so she is here tonight, and we're also very glad to see Eric Murdoch is here with us tonight, our local Bridgewater star. Eric, thank you for all your partnership with the township over all your years and everything you do with the rec department and for all of our kids. Eric is here, as many of you know. We've been working with him on improvements to the Hobbstown area, whether it was on roads, and now, of course, tonight we have the award of contract for the improvement of the Philip and David Miller Park. That was really started with Eric's vision and advocacy on getting that park back up to something that we can really be proud of, and maybe bring a little bit of that history and what that park used to be. I mean, I know some of the stories Eric would tell, and hearing some of the events that were held there about, that we would be able to do. So that item, the award of contract, is on. It's item D on the agenda.
Yeah.
So that one, same thing. I know Eric is here, and to see that finally move forward. So those are the two items here, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Does anyone have any objection to doing the appointment to the Municipal Alliance?
I was going to suggest that if we went through open public comment, then before we do any of the ordinances, I just confirmed with council, we could actually do all the resolutions in consent before we have any public hearings on the 3 ordinances.
That makes sense. The only thing I would say is, I think we want to do B separately, the
Okay,
youth
well, we can
service.
do the resolutions.
Okay,
So would this, when the time
So,
comes, we should make a
motion to amend the agenda,
state what you
yes.
wanna- State what you want to do again.
Yeah,
okay,
so,
okay. So, can I have a motion to open the meeting to the public?
so moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Members of the public wishing to address the council on any matter will have 3 minutes to speak, which may be extended in the discretion of the council president. An additional minute will be allotted for responses to comments from the dais. So anyone wishing to speak, there is a sign-in sheet. You can put down your name and your address, okay? And then when you come to the podium, just say your name, and if you wouldn't mind saying whether or not you're a resident of Bridgewater, I would appreciate it. We would appreciate it.
And Madam President, we may also want to clarify that despite the change in the order, we will be holding public hearings on 10A, B, C, so comments on those 3 subjects can and should wait until that time.
That's correct. Basically, those are 3 bond ordinances, so anybody who's here to talk about the bond ordinances, you will have a separate open public meeting portion. Hello, sir. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Sherrill. I am at 102 Delaware Lane, Branchburg, and I'm here today. I'm also with the Somerset Indivisible and with Food and Water Watch. So I will tell you 3 reasons why the entire surrounding area will be negatively affected by the 400,000 square foot AI data center at Graymark. Now, Graymark is a beautiful building. It has a gazebo and it has an elegant lobby. It also has a lot of professional services, primary care, orthopedic, eye, dental, neurological. And so it would be a shame to destroy this beautiful building and to also lose these professional services that are there now. Now, I urge the council to consider the following 3 reasons, impacts on the community. First, huge power demand. This AI data center is estimated to draw approximately 60 megawatts of power. That's equivalent to 30,000 homes.
60, did you say? Just
60.
60.
60, yes. Okay. Introducing this level of demand introduces a risk of straining our energy infrastructure and higher electricity costs for all. 2, threatened water resources and aquifers. This AI computing generates immense heat, which requires huge cooling. The facility is projected to consume 1 million gallons of water each day. That's equivalent to 10,000 residential homes.
Or what is that based on?
What is that?
You're sharing statistics as to how much energy and how much water is going to be done. Let me just clarify. There's no application before any land use board. This property is tied up in litigation right now. There's active court hearings. Nobody has submitted a plan to say, we're going to build a data center there
Of any size.
of any size. So what are you basing the electrical and water use off of
Well,
when there's not a plan for a data center there?
A similar facility in Vineland, AI
Similar,
data center.
okay.
Okay.
What,
Okay.
is it apples to apples? We don't know because
Pretty much,
we don't,
yeah.
how do we know that? There's not a plan.
Well, you could ratio it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you want me to finish my 3rd point?
Sure, I just wanted to point out for the
Okay.
purposes that
There's no active
there's no active plan.
application.
So
Okay.
we can't we can't take what you're saying
Right.
and review that to a plan because there is no plan for anything there right now.
Okay, I'm just giving you info.
Or please continue.
Okay, thanks. Okay, third, disruptive and continuous noise pollution. These centers operate 24/7, and their massive cooling fans and diesel generators produce the constant humming sound. In Vineland, a similar data center has driven local residents to file a class action suit due to the unbearable noise pollution. It routinely hits 55 decibels, and this is from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., and severely disrupting sleep and diminishing property values. In conclusion, Town Council prides itself in protecting Bridgewater residents and the surrounding environment. While proposed as a rateable project to scale, brings minimal employment while extracting exorbitant toll on our water, power, and peace of mind. So thank you very much for your time.
Okay, so you have a minute to respond, but I want to respond to you. First of all, I want you to know that this council is taking the issue of data centers very seriously. There are no specific detailed plans for there to be a data center in Bridgewater at this time, but
Great.
we're all concerned about it because we all know if there's vacant land, it could happen. This is my file on data centers,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
We're taking it seriously,
Okay.
okay?
Thank
I want you
very
to
much,
know that.
President.
And
Go.
I want you to also know that it is my understanding, and I could be wrong, but I think it's worth further research, that 2 days ago, Governor Mikey Sherrill signed legislation that would limit the number of megawatts to 50. And if they want to go over 50, even if they want to go under 50, but if they want to go 50 or more, and my numbers could be a little bit off, okay? But they have to get special permission from the utilities companies. And it's my understanding that the way the legislation was passed, they have passed legislation, one, that does away with tariffs, that adds tariffs. Two, that does away with tax incentives that were given to data centers in the past.
Okay.
So that's gone. Three, that the legislation would require the data centers to pay for their own electric costs, so it wouldn't be spread out to all of the citizens.
Any expansion of the electrical system
Well,
needed for the data center
Even more, right.
has to be covered by
Infrastructure.
The infrastructure as well, right. If they have to build a new, what would you call it, a new substation?
Attention power lines.
Okay, so,
They don't want the electric company taking those costs and
Right.
spreading it out across all.
Spreading it out to all the residents.
right, so that problem,
You're on?
knock
you're on
on wood, may be taken care of.
Okay.
The water issue, there's multiple layers to that. It could be water. Some of them are looking at cooling systems, coolants instead, and that brings a different set of problems, okay? The noise issue, Bridgewater has a noise ordinance that limits the amount of noise that anyone can make. And right now, it would be difficult for a data center of any type of meaningful size to meet that criteria. And I think that those are my only comments, but I do want you to know this council's taking it very, very seriously. We are very much on top of it. That particular property is tied up in litigation, so we can't say too much about it, okay? And I don't know if anyone else has any
Well,
comments?
Madam President, just one item. The front building, you talk about 1,200, that will not be replaced. In the opening of your comments, you talked about the beauty and the functionality of that building. That building is unimpacted by this. This is essentially a second lot that's behind it that is currently vacant. So, first, thank you for being here. Thank you for your concern, but, I think it's critically important that, everyone do their homework. And not necessarily run with the worst part of the story.
And I want the public to know, we are receiving more emails about it. We are getting questions from the public. I mean, we are reading every line of every email we get. We are doing a lot of research. We are looking at it very, very carefully. We're very aware of it. Okay,
that's
it's
good to hear.
it's
Thank
it's
you
probably
very
number
much.
one on my concern list.
Okay.
If I could, I was going to bring this up in the discussion section, but since it has been brought up, I will, I guess, add a little bit of context that I also share your concerns with the impact to the environment, specifically the water system, and just clean air in general. I will point out some information that has been in the news from other areas of the country. A data center that is in Cheyenne, Wyoming, ended up contaminating the wastewater system because of some issues with the discharge of water that was contaminated with a bacteria virus. Bacteria, not a virus. That was ended up requiring the utility, the wastewater utility, to say you can't send your wastewater here anymore. On the subject of wastewater, the data center that is in Memphis, Tennessee, that is operated by X, one of Elon Musk's companies, they had promised that the data center would reuse water and build a water recycling plant instead of dumping it into the sewage system. They ended up not coming through with that promise, and I guess my point in pointing this out is that if the richest man in the world's company can't be bothered to fulfill the promise to clean up their wastewater, can we really expect anybody else to do so either? But I do thank you for bringing this to our attention, and as the council president has said, we have received lots of emails about this topic in particular, and I think there will be more to say on it, both later this evening and in the coming future.
Sir, you have to speak into the microphone.
Yeah, go
You
ahead.
have to speak into the mic. You're also being broadcast.
I have a back problem, so I needed to sit down. Yes, is there any other comments? Can I-
Yeah, so in addition to getting questions from the public, we have trainings for planning board members and zoning board members. So I attended the one at RVCC this year, and, the keynote speaker, I think it was Judge Menon, we did talk about a little bit about AI data centers, and New Jersey's not ready for it. That was the judicial kind of background at a local level, that we're just not ready. The power that we've spoken about, we would have to build up a lot of infrastructure that's required to do this the right way. So, we had playbooks for all these other upcoming zoning and planning issues, but it didn't seem like AI data centers was really, something that's ready to go. And that's just from my perspective.
Also just came out, AOC introduced a bill in Congress to put a moratorium, I think a one-year moratorium on data centers nationally. So that may be passed nationally.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the council?
Hi, good evening. My name
Just
is
hold the mic down a little
I'm
bit.
short. My name is Mona McHale, and I live on 3 Bogart Drive, and I'm here to ask the council here to close down Purcell at Waltersbrook. It has caused us a lot of problems over the years. Traffic has increased quite a bit, and traffic has caused us garbage being thrown out on our lawn. buses and school buses going through. We have 18-wheelers going through because it's basically a shortcut from Waltersbrook down to 28. They race down 40, 45 miles an hour, it's a 25-mile-an-hour zone. They don't stop, they don't just zoom down just to get to 28. It has caused us a lot of problems with accidents. We have cars that hit brick mailboxes. They've hit cars on the sidewalk. They hit cars going into the driveway and hit the car inside the driveway and the garage door, and went and hit another car inside the garage. It ricocheted 3 cars in. Yeah, I have a picture of a car that turned over in front of my house at 12 midnight at night with 2 people trapped inside the car, and I was out there trying to help them out to get them out of the car. Me and my daughter. My daughter was, at the time, was an EMT, and she had all her friends hanging out in front of my door because they were all hanging out trying to figure out how to get these guys out of the car. Literally, I was there trying to open up the door so they can climb out. They couldn't get out, so we had to open the roof of the car to get them out of the car, while the car is leaking stuff all over the street, and I'm thinking maybe the car's going to blow up. And here I am trying to get them out. So this situation has continued over the years. It wasn't designed that way initially when we first moved in. Now it's become out of control.
So there is a list of streets. I met with the chief of police and with our traffic safety officer. We're well aware of the fact that there are a multitude of traffic problems in Bridgewater. Okay, you're not alone. Okay, and there is a list of about 70 streets. Chief, if you remember, I think it's about 70 streets. I can double check and see if yours is on that, but I know usually when someone from the public comes and makes a comment like yours, usually Town Administrator Pappas starts looking into it. If you want to make a comment, or Mayor, if you want to.
We can take a look specifically at this street. I think one of the problems, actually, if I remember correctly, Buena Parkway, I think, wasn't always open, if I remember correctly. And I think that's probably what.
It wasn't open, and then all of a sudden they opened it. So when we
Yeah. Now it's been probably for a little, for a while, but it's which 20 years ago it wasn't open, I don't think.
Right, and I was one of the first ones to move in that area. So
Right.
it was nice and quiet and peaceful.
Yeah.
And now our homes are worth $1 million, and we can't even enjoy our homes because all these cars running through to the stop sign.
Yeah.
I literally drove down to the stop sign where someone just passed me while I was pulling out of my driveway.
Right.
Tell them, I got your license, and don't you do that again because I'm going to report you to the police. I shouldn't be policing my street.
Right.
I called it several times. The police had come and put a speed thing on, and they say, oh, we can't keep this thing here for too long. A week, and it was gone.
Yeah.
I asked them to come again, they didn't show up. And then I asked them to come and police the street, and they said, we can't because as the cars come down the street, they see the cars. They see the police car at the end of the road. Said, we can't police it.
Yeah.
They literally said that to me.
Yeah,
it's out of control.
Yeah, it's tough. We'll have the traffic safety unit take a quick look. I mean, if they have data on it already, then we'll make sure we have it and
So my
respond.
request is that sidewalk on Waltersbrook on Purcell to be extended and closing down the street. I've called the.
You say close down the street.
We don't have the authority.
Extend the sidewalk. So basically, nobody can turn in. It's not it should be a shortcut.
Yeah, I don't know if that's possible, but what we can do is look at a couple things. One of which is if you're saying that there's trucks going through there may be
18-wheelers.
ability to look at truck restrictions. None of this stuff is as easy as you think. Even with truck restrictions, there's rules that we have to follow that are outside of our jurisdiction about when you can and can't do it.
Same thing I'm asking is something that happened in Raritan where they shut down the street by extending the sidewalk and nobody drives through.
Right.
And
Yeah.
basically, it's just a half a mile down the road, and they're on 28, they're on to 22, and from 22 goes into 28.
Right.
And with this, the problem is solved.
Yeah. Well, we'll look. What I don't want to do is I don't want to overpromise something and set your expectations. Right now, what I can tell you is that we will have our traffic safety unit. If they haven't already, the administration will make sure we get whatever data we have.
Yep.
If we need more data, then we will get it.
Yep.
And we will ask whether it's.
Traffic study would help, but it has to start in September, which is accelerated traffic.
We will ask our lawyer. We'll ask any of our professionals that impact this what type of solutions fit that we can do, and then we will come back with a discussion over internally or with the council or with you and other residents about what we think is feasible.
I live over there too, ma'am, and I agree with you. It's a total mess.
Sorry, I can't-
I live over there as well. I live like 2 streets over from you. It's a total. Your road and that little like is a total mess.
That little elbow.
absolute mess.
Yeah.
Can I ask if that's a school bus route?
No, I guess just a few people stop at the bus stops at the home to drop off a younger child, but not the older ones.
Yeah, because
Going through our neighborhood to that.
I've seen
There are-
people run school buses when I pick up my child, so it's really dangerous if that's
Yeah, and
how fast they're
Basically,
going.
they can come out the other way through Buena, whatever it's called, on the other side. So for the younger children. But my daughter had to walk all the way to Walters Brook to get picked up by the bus. So it's not a very simple situation to correct.
That way.
Right. Yeah, we'll take a look. We'll absolutely look at it.
Right, the
Thank you.
quarter mile.
Pill both.
Okay. Sir, just make sure you sign in if you haven't already. Okay, thank you.
And President Geiger, thank you for inviting me. I had messaged you online, and you responded that I should come in and state my position about this. I live around
Oh, state your name for the record.
Stuart Newsom. I live at 23
Okay.
Purcell Road.
Not
around the-
not Stuart Newsom, the lawyer.
Yes.
Ah, you are the Stuart Newsom.
I don't know if I was ever the, but now retired.
I don't know.
I've been practicing a long time. I know the name.
So I live around the corner from Mona. I live on Purcell, and there's a stop sign that separates us. And she's right, this problem has gotten worse and worse over the years. I don't intend to pile on the same facts, but I want to tell you how it affects us. We can't pull out of our driveway because the cars coming around that corner through the stop sign are traveling so fast that if I look and see there's no car at the stop sign, by the time I put it in gear and go back, they are right keyed to my car and yelling at me and with the finger out. And the reason is that intersection is not a T intersection. It's canted to the side of Purcell that goes to Walters Brook. So they don't have to slow down. It's a stop sign. They treat it as a turn in a curve. And so there's no deceleration. They are flying through that turn. And just 2 days ago, that same thing happened. It was one of those hot days. A guy had his window down. He was T to my car as I pulled back. And I said, you know, you just went through a stop sign. He said, I've been driving this way for 20 years, and if the cops don't care how I drive, I don't care. So to me, that's an indication there's no enforcement. We know there's no enforcement. And we've had the public safety officer out. It wasn't recently, so there's probably a different officer. He said, this is not a policing problem because we're not going to police it. We don't have the resources to do it. You need to go to the engineering department, and you need to tell the engineering department something's wrong here. And I called the engineering department and never got a response. So my request to you is, I heard the mayor say, we're going to look into it. There's got to be an engineering solution to keeping the people from speeding down Bogart, going through that stop sign and leaving the neighborhood because it's just a cut through.
Right.
And I think Mona's solution seems radical, but it's a great idea. If it's not a pass-through, they're not going to be there. So there has to be some engineering approach. I know you said, or somebody said, you know, we can't do that. We don't have the authority to do that. It's not a state street. It's a Bridgewater street. A Bridgewater board at some time,
Right.
you know, looked at the engineering plans and approved it. And the public safety officer at the time said, what do you want from my life? You know, I didn't design it. So that's where we are, and we're victims at this point to the speeding cars, the cars that don't honor the stop sign, and you know it's worse. It's worse in the fall. It's worse in the spring when people are back in school. But it's bad all year. You know, there's no time. And I've suggested to my neighbors we set up a camera to show you, but it sounds like we don't need to prove there's a problem. Everyone knows who's been in that neighborhood that that is a terrible intersection. That is a terrible stretch.
Parking creates a bottleneck too, that I think when cars are speeding down that, going too
Right.
fast, you can have a not a bad accident, but a bad result. I don't even use it anymore.
With the engineering issue, so there's 2 points, which is, I don't know if there is a solution. That's why I'm saying I will look at it, because there very well may be multiple solutions that work in terms of redesigning an intersection, impacting, sight lines. One of the things that we look at when we talk about, potentially closing roads is not just, when you do traffic studies, it's not just what is the impact there, but if you're redirecting cars, are we creating another problem somewhere else? So the traffic study, when it comes to changing traffic patterns, looks at, the impact on Bogart, look on Purcell, but also, what does that mean in other places? So it's a comprehensive issue, but we will look at, having engineering look at it, whether it's an enforcement issue, a design issue, a road. If there is a solution that we can do, we will pursue it and see if that is possible. There's issues that come up with right-of-ways and roads, which is, I don't know what law you practiced, but certainly you may recall that towns often have right-of-way where we can expand roads if we have the right into someone's front yard up to a certain point. But depending on when the houses were built, I don't know, an example in your neighborhood, whether we still have the inherent right to expand the roads there if we wanted to, but anyway, we will. That's why legal counsel, engineering, traffic safety will look at all of that and be able to see what the options are.
Thank you. I'll give you one. I think 4, 5, 6 years ago, I read in the paper that there was a grant for traffic control, and they wanted to put it on, I forget which street, but in our neighborhood someplace, and the neighbors didn't want it. It was like speed bumps or something.
Yeah.
And I called up and said, what about our street? I never got a call back on that.
Yeah. I will say, I wasn't going to say this, but you would be surprised that sometimes when you propose some of these things, if we came here tonight and said we were closing down Bogart, I guarantee you at the next meeting, we also would have several people who would then be hear about why that's a problem. So none of this is easy, even from that standpoint. We did something with sidewalks at one point in time I thought was a no-brainer, and we had literally 2 competing petitions of 50 residents on each side about one in favor, one against, and you can't win. But we will look at it. We will see what we can do.
Thank you for your time.
Madam President, just one very brief comment, because I live in this extended neighborhood, so I certainly understand the challenges of cut-throughs and people not paying attention to speed limits. But one thing that I think needs clarification is a comment was made, something to the effect of, we don't police it, we won't police it, we won't enforce it. I mean, the chief is in the room. Perhaps he should be given the chance to state the fact that we do enforce laws. We cannot enforce every law on every street at every time. But to make the statement, we won't enforce it, we can't enforce it, I do not believe is the position of the Bridgewater Police Department in this neighborhood or any other.
I will tell you that's what we were told by, and it might be a prior public safety officer who came out, because it was several years ago. And what he said was, we don't have the resources to sit here and make sure people use the stop sign.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, I don't know if the chief wants to comment or not. I think the answer is
don't
we
blame them.
we do not have the resources to put a police officer at every stop sign in the municipality. That is an absolute
Don't blame
statement
them.
of
Of
fact.
course they don't. That's why I'm saying we need an engineering solution. Something has to stop this, because the police, whether they can't or won't or not in a position to, something has to be done, and something could be done. And, having somebody stop by the stop sign, X times in a month, isn't necessarily going to do anything. But that's what we were told, that this is not a police issue.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else?
Hello, council.
Thank you.
My name is Eric Murdoch. I'm a Bridgewater resident in the Hobstown section of Bridgewater. I was raised by my grandmother. My mother died when I was 6 months old. There was no sidewalks. She was walking along North Bridge and was hit by a drunk driver. She was tossed into a ditch, 6 inches of water. She fell face down into the water and drowned.
Oh, my God.
But my grandmother had 9 kids of her own, and she took me in as if I was hers. To this day, she's 99 years old. And I live with her, and I take care of her. We watch NBA 4 nights a week. And she's an avid Golden State Warrior fan. And I said, she's not going to die of old age. She's going to die of yelling at Draymond Green. So, but she raised me. And also, the park raised me. After school, I would go down to the park every day until the lights came on. And honed in on my skills, honed in on how to be a great teammate, work ethic, integrity, everything that, makes you a man. And I owe everything to that park. One of the main reasons why I made it to the NBA is that park. And the park is named after my uncles, Uncle Dave and Uncle Philip Miller, who are not with us. And right now, that park does not represent, what they stood for as, leaders in that community. I want to thank the mayor for hearing the issue, seeing the issue, and promising me that we would get this thing moving forward. He is a man of his word, and this was maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago, and he said, we're going to get it done. And right now, it looks like we're going to get this basketball court done. And I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank you for introducing Mr. Field, who is back here, for really coming on board and really, really moving this project forward. So I don't have any issues. I came here to just thank you guys for, making Bridgewater Township one of the best places to live in New Jersey, and I really appreciate that.
Come anytime and repeat that.
Yeah. And I should point out 2 things. One, there is a grant that also helps offset some of the costs of this, which is great. And the other thing is, don't let Eric fool you. He's just as good a politician as us sitting up here. I'm pretty sure at the event that he hosts, which is also coming up to give away backpacks to kids, that's on the
August 22nd.
22nd,
Yeah, Saturday.
which is a fantastic event. I'm pretty sure I think it was last summer, but one of those summers when I got there, Eric made sure to get me on the microphone in public to make sure that it was committed to the court project. So don't let his nice guy opinion fool you. He was a shrewd politician and got that public commitment. So thank you all for everything that you do. You're running camps right now, I know, for our kids in the summer, and what you do with the rec program is an experience that every kid raves about. So thank you.
Yeah, well, it's a difference because I see the mayor at Lifetime working out all the time, and I see him in the gym when I'm working out his son, Jackson. And so, Mayor, it's good to see you mayoring right now, man.
That's right.
It's a different thing. But again, I'd like to thank everyone involved for getting this project done. It means a lot. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to the people of the community. And, we need to see kids in the park again. Obviously, they have a lot of distractions, with everything going on. So really, really appreciate you guys. And thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Murdoch, if you didn't, please sign in.
I signed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Timmery Deal. I actually live at 76 Culver Street in Somerville, so not from Bridgewater.
Did you sign in?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. I currently serve as the chair of the Somerville Environmental Commission. So, I just wanted to firstly congratulate you guys at this council for reestablishing the Environmental Commission here in Bridgewater. As a neighbor, I find that really encouraging, and I hope that it does a lot of good for you guys in your town because it's a kind of a pillar of our community. So I hope the best for you guys as well. So I'm actually not here tonight in that sort of capacity. I'm here as a small business owner in the local area and as an organic farmer by trade. I am unable to make the zoning board meeting next Tuesday, and I understand that that's when the board will be voting on whether to accept the variance application for the Melix farm stand property and if that's going to become a storage facility. So I just wanted to come here tonight and share what I've found. So like I mentioned, I run a small business. It's called Twisted Root Organics, and I teach people how to grow their own food in their own space. But more widely and historically, I've been part of the local food movement for over a decade. And with a degree in botany and environmental studies, I'm looking at this issue both from the lens of the human and community impact and the scientific impact, specifically when it comes to the nutrition of the food available. So I just wanted to go through a few items that might be of note for you. Most people don't know that the nutrient density of all produce decreases as soon as it's picked. So that means that the farther something travels to get to you and onto your plate, it means the less nutritious it is for you chemically. So of course, something harvested nearby and sold within a few days of when it was harvested keeps a lot more of its vitamins and the content than something that was picked far away and shipped across the country. Our agricultural system has ballooned in size over the last century and a half, and local farms are becoming harder and harder to find. New Jersey is one of the outliers in that. We do have a lot of local farms, which I think is great as the Garden State. But another benefit is that the produce that comes from a local farm was picked when it was actually ripe. So that may seem obvious, but in comparison, to be able to ship produce across the country, factory farms harvest food early and use a synthetic method of pumping gas into the trucks during shipping to ripen the produce. So this considerably affects the flavor. I think anybody who's tasted a vine-ripened cherry tomato versus what you get at the store could attest to that. But research also suggests that it also affects the nutrient density of your food. So compounded with the issue of it traveling far, local grown food is significantly better for you. There's also an interesting food security aspect to this as well. We experienced many varied impacts over the last few months when our supply chains were disrupted for different global reasons. So it's a net benefit to you and your community to have food coming into the town from a hyper-local source, especially if in the future relying on the global supply chain continues to be less consistent. In addition to those kind of more scientific impacts, there's also a community impact, and I'm almost done, I promise. At the risk of being a little bit cheesy, a farm stand is a meeting place. You see your neighbors there, you know the cashier, and even more rarely at this point in time, you can sometimes know your farmer, which used to be a really common thing. This specific farm stand has open space and it has a lot of trees. So that's beautiful in and of itself. It's access to food grown a few miles away instead of a few thousand miles away. It's the kind of place that people build memories around, and the charm of this place, specifically at the Melix Farm Stand, is becoming the sort of thing that you only read about in classic Americana literature at this point. A storage facility isn't any of that. And even more concerning, recently storage facilities have been used as stepping stones to other businesses down the line, like data centers or worse. So getting to my point here, you can see how this issue, as an organic farmer myself and a small business and a neighbor to you guys here in Bridgewater, you can see how this would have piqued my interest. And since I'm not a resident here of Bridgewater, I decided to do the one thing I could do. I ended up making a video to raise awareness of this issue and help people understand what they can do if they're concerned about this possible transformation. I want to note that nobody asked me to make a video. It's really just because this is an issue very close to my heart and my values, and I wanted to do something about it because Melix is a place that I go all the time. We get their cider, and it's just a really special part of our community. So I figured that as a small business here locally, I have a small following on Instagram, and figured I would use my skills, my limited skills in videography, to post a video. But I was really not expecting the response that I would get. As of 5:30 this evening, the video was viewed 37,000 times. It has 2,600 likes, 200 comments, and was shared almost 900 times between friends. So, you know, I don't have any other videos on my page that are anywhere near as, you know, engaging as that. And to me, that shows that this issue is important and resonates with people in our area.
If you wouldn't mind wrapping it up,
Yep, I'm wrapping
I'll
it
tell
up.
you why.
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
minute.
So, I just wanted to kind of pull the common threads between the comments. There's just a couple. So, people who, there were a lot of people who grew up with the stand and recognized it and worked at it themselves, which I thought was interesting. There were a lot of cute little stories that were shared. There was anger generally about the idea of trading a farm stand for storage. One comment said, "Consume, consumes, consume. Oh wait, now you need a place to store all the crap you don't need." That one comment got 90 likes. And people kind of pointed to precedents from other towns about how they were able to potentially stop something like this happening in their area. And there was a lot of people asking people to show up at the zoning board meeting on Tuesday. And Melik's farm stand actually commented saying, "Thank you for all of the support." So I really just wanted to come here to relay these findings to you. I did not expect this video to make any sort of a splash, and this is really just a PSA to you guys. I can't be at the zoning board meeting, and I really just wanted to report back on the response that I got. And you know, I think overall this really just kind of gave me hope that you know, people are really concerned about this, and I think that says a lot about our community. And I think that what I'm ultimately asking is, I hope that the zoning board makes the call to reject the variance, because that's what the people are asking for, and it's what's scientifically and socially best for Bridgewater.
So I'm going to ask our attorney to comment first before anyone from the dais makes a comment.
Just the governing body can't really comment on this at all because it's before the zoning board. So we appreciate your comment, but there'll be no other comment on this.
Great.
Yeah, we can't, so.
Sounds good. I really just wanted you guys to know the overwhelming response that I got, so.
I would like to make two, well, first of all, I'm not going to comment on substance anyway, but just to not put anybody else in a position, because the zoning board can appeal to the council, which is why the council had mentioned it. But I would like to just comment about the environmental commission, and because that's one of the things that has been we're proud of over the past year, getting that up and running. And it reminded me that that information also is being posted on our website way more visibly than it ever has before. And our environmental commission is taking a much more expanded role in some of the things that they're doing. So if you have ideas on that front too, we will take a look at your commission. And if you have ideas, please share them, because our chairman, Jeff Foose, who was on the zoning board, has taken a really impressive leadership role in trying to take that board from not doing anything or much of anything to being very proactive and a board and a community. So thank you for your service and your town's environmental commission, and for reminding me I wanted to talk about that earlier, so I'll take advantage of it. And hopefully you'll come do some videos for us, because if you could figure out how to get 36,000 views, I could use a few of those myself. So thank you.
Yeah, and I wanted to extend your not regarding the zoning, but last year I was invited to the Somerville Environmental Commission, and I learned so much. And thank you for your willingness to help us now that we have it going as well, because you guys have amazing expertise as well. So look forward to working together.
Thank you. Yes, of course. We're neighbors, so
Yes.
I'd love to collaborate more.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Carolyn, did you, no, you're going to sign in now?
Good evening. I'm Carolyn Joya, 1402 Bailey Court. Thank you for extending time for this comment. I have had the honor of going to an environmental commission meeting in Somerville, along with some of our council people here, and they run a nice, really, really good ship. And it was so inspiring to me that now I'm going to all of our environmental commission meetings. There would have been one tonight. There's not, but I would have been there if there would have been.
Was it canceled because of the weather or just?
I'm not really sure.
No, it was.
But we did get notice.
Yeah, it was. There was a question about whether or not we weren't sure that the meeting notices got up in a way that we were. It was posted. They could have done it, but in talking to the chairman, we didn't feel like it was enough public notice to make sure that it was. We were comfortable with it.
Interesting that you do mention that, because that was one of the comments I was here to make, is that in the past, because I've been getting very involved, not only in environmental commission, but with zoning, there have been some instances where meetings were not posted as quickly as usual. It wasn't a violation in any sort because they're all announced in the beginning of the year, and I put them in my calendar, so I know in January. But just to make sure that who's ever monitoring the website with the meeting notices to get them out, with plenty of time, especially if there's a change. That's very helpful, especially for this one coming up on Tuesday, which I will be at. I cannot speak. I already did speak and gave sworn testimony last hearing. But the fact that several people here were speaking about Bogart and Purcell, and I know the last council meeting, this was addressed very effectively by Chief Mitzak, that a study had been done regarding stop signs and a conclusion had been made. But my concern was if specific speed study was done or if it was just a study about the actual accidents that took place. It seemed as though it was reported that there was not a sufficient number of accidents that were occurring, that were not driver error, to further study the area. So I wanted to just follow up on that. I wasn't aware that it was going to be addressed, and I did speak with the gentleman who did the petition, and he couldn't make it here tonight, but he may have some feedback on that as well. And then on Friday, there was, I believe it was Friday, a horrific accident in front of Melix. You couldn't recognize the front of the car. I have the photo, and I wanted to follow up because Council President Geiger said, please don't just come to us directly or come to the police chief. I'm just curious the circumstances around that accident, because it was exactly what we're so concerned about in that area on 28 as you're heading towards the 22 ramp, and the addition of the cars and trucks and U-Hauls and box trucks that could be in that area because of the storage facility might exacerbate an already bad situation. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, that accident happened. And I can certainly follow up with the police chief. I don't know the circumstances. It doesn't look like anybody could have survived it. But this was just on Friday, and it's continuing to happen. So that being said, plus having been going to zoning board meetings, I'm aware that there's an application for a very large church, one that I'm very fond of and I've attended for years, is opening or trying to open a campus that might house some 900 parishioners and increase traffic on Sundays significantly. Now, I don't have a problem with that, and I think it's a good addition to the community, but I think it's hard for the council sometimes to understand everything that's going on in the big picture with zoning and the type of traffic that we're going to be bringing into this town over the next 2 years could significantly impact this community. So I just wanted to update you on all that, and go ahead.
Well, I wanted to ask you about the Environmental Commission. I wanted to make a comment. I wanted to ask you a question about that, because I have gotten some inquiries from people who are very, very interested in it, and it's my understanding, because I know you go to a fair number of them, when you do go, whether you're on the commission or not, you do have an opportunity to participate, and they...
Absolutely. Okay. I am very much an active participant.
So for anybody who's watching this or listening, if they're if they've stayed away because they're not on the commission, it doesn't mean that they can't go and participate and be heard and, make their voice heard as well, right? I mean, I just want to confirm that for,
Oh, everyone should come. I mean, they do their meeting, and then at the end, there's a public comment session. Actually, things that are brought up in public comment are followed up on. And I mean, Jeffers goes to, no end to get answers and make sure that people's questions are, and concerns are addressed. So very open and, user-friendly. So all that being said, again, I think it was smart to come and do sort of this little PSA because Tuesday night, for anyone here and people who are listening, everybody knows about it, and everybody's watching Bridgewater, and everybody's watching the zoning board, and this is not the zoning board, but what the zoning board's going to be voting on is going to have a significant impact on the implementation of our master plan, and that's something that you guys did have a big part in. And what they're planning to do is very much against the master plan, what the applicant is planning to do. And I'm sure that the zoning board is very well aware of that, and I've been very impressed with how studious they've been about what's going on. And, especially our planner. I mean, kudos to her because she has kept on the sides. And I can't talk about it. Okay. What I mean
no,
is...
the planner is Catherine Sarmat. I'm just...
Yes,
Yeah.
she's been
If you're
fantastic.
gonna give a shout out, you might as well mention their name.
She's on it. She knows everything. I'm so impressed. And if the zoning board listens to her, they will agree it's too big for the lot. And it would cause, significant harm to the community. But that's not for tonight. But be aware that this master plan that calls for Bridgewater to, protect and preserve farm stands and to protect and encourage, the garden nature of our township and the beautification of our township, and to keep residential neighborhoods free from truck traffic, and those kinds of things are in jeopardy. And I hope that you pay attention and watch the zoning board hearing.
We're not permitted to.
Oh, you're not allowed to
No.
watch? Interesting.
We're not permitted to. We serve potentially as an appeal to something on the zoning board. So while we are certainly able to be aware of it, we are actively discouraged from attending, watching, or being intimately familiar with cases on the zoning board. And Mr. Corsini, we need to have a separation because we may be called upon for any case in front of the zoning board to serve as an appeal body.
Maybe you want to watch the evening news then.
I mean, I'm interested in this because I have attended zoning board meetings, so I want to make sure I'm not doing something I shouldn't.
I'm loath to disagree with Councilman Kirsch, but you can absolutely go to zoning.
Yeah, I've been to one and I spoke to the lawyer that's on the zoning board at
Rich Oler.
intermission, and when we took a break, and he just said as long as I don't publicly comment on anything.
I mean, your
I
residents
didn't.
also, this affects you. So, but
But while we're asking, you've been to several of the zoning board meetings or all of the zoning board meetings for this case?
I didn't know about the first one, but I went to the last three and I was sworn in and I gave testimony in the fourth.
Okay. All right.
Feel free to watch.
Well, no, I
You
just,
can't.
I just wanted to know because I'm sure I would assume that during those hearings, thorough discussion was held about access to that property. And, I'm sure that was discussed.
It was, and I played video and I gave picture
We,
testimony.
Okay.
I can't talk
I think
about it.
maybe we ought to
Just
just
real quick,
go any further on this.
one real quick comment regarding the accident. I don't know anything particular about Friday's accident, but I have seen many accidents over my 30-plus years in EMS. I will tell you today, when you see cars sometimes, you look at a car and you say you don't know how somebody survived. Cars today are actually designed on the outside to crumble to protect the compartment where passengers ride. So from a car safety point of view today, cars will crumble a lot more on the outside than they used to. But I don't know anything particular about Friday's accident.
I'm
I'll leave
telling
it at
you,
that.
if someone had died, it would have been in the paper, so I don't think anyone died, but it was serious. I think I went over my 3 minutes, but
Thank you.
that was what I wanted to say, and Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to address the council?
Seeing no one, I move to close open public comment.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to modify the agenda and move item 12 prior to item 10.
All in favor?
Need a
Oh, I
second.
need a second.
Second. No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we're on item 12. We're going to do these by consent. Authorizing the refund of sewer overpayment for the property located at 754 Route 202, Bridgewater, New Jersey, 08807. Do I need a roll call for that? Is there any discussion on it?
Could we just get some more background information of the nature of the overpayment?
It was incorrectly billed to a business there, and it's a full refund.
Do we know how much it is?
Yes, $6,890 relative to the sewer year 2025, according to the paperwork in our packet.
Okay.
Do we know the root cause of this kind of error, and does this happen often?
No, this does not happen often. This was an error. The owner of the mall should have been billed, and this is a new business, and they, by error, which we think we've corrected, this occurred and should not occur again.
Okay, great, thank you.
My first time for a sewer one in 6 years sitting here.
Okay, good.
Can I have a roll call?
Need a motion first?
I think didn't we do a motion? Oh, no, we did a motion to move to the resolutions.
I'll move it.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, can I have a roll call?
Councilman Bako,
Yes.
Councilwoman Isla,
Yes.
Councilman Kirsch,
Yes.
Councilman Ring,
Yes.
President Geiger.
Yes. B, appointment of the Bridgewater Raritan Youth Services Commission, Kirsten Forsythe. Would you like to address the council? You don't have to, but if you want to, we're happy to have you. No? Okay. Mayor, you already made some comments. I don't know if you want to comment any further. I think you...
I don't think the council has any questions. As the council knows, I haven't moved, a lot of appointments. This one I feel very strongly about, and I think that this is a wonderful opportunity for us to bring on somebody who has like I said, a passion, and where we could turn a tragic situation into one that brings good to the public, and I feel very strong and very, I would say, excited that we have an opportunity to work with Kirsten and get her involved.
Can I have a motion to...
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little comment. I don't think you remember me, but when I worked at J&J, we would go over to Redstone quite often, the big groups with the 40 so people. So thank you for everything you did for us, and thank you for joining.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? I'll second. Can I have a roll call?
Councilman Bako,
Yes.
Councilwoman Isla,
Yes.
Councilman Kirsch,
Yes.
Councilman Ring,
Yes.
President Geiger.
Yes. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And thank you for offering to serve, for stepping up.
We will, the clerk will reach out to you with regard to paperwork for you to sign. You can come in and do that, and then you'll get on the list for, getting the information you need, and we'll get you all acclimated and ready to go. All right, great, thank you.
Okay. A resolution amending resolution number 260507125 to revise the date for the Somerset County Park Commission fireworks display from July 3rd, 2026 to Friday, July 7th, 2026. I believe it was canceled.
17th.
I'm sorry, July 17, 2026. That's important, so people know. It's July 17, 2026. Is there any discussion?
I think if we don't do this, there'll be tens of thousands of people upset with us, so I will move it.
I will second it with the comment that I will not be attending the fireworks.
I
It's
won't either, but
very hot and very crowded and very buggy, but otherwise it is great fireworks. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Bako,
Yes.
Councilwoman Isla,
Yes.
Councilman Kirsch,
Yes.
Councilman Ring,
yes.
President Geiger.
Yes. And moving on to D, award of contract to Pave Right, Inc., 40 Raydale Avenue, Bridgewater, New Jersey, 08807, for the Philip and David Miller Park Basketball Improvement Project in the amount not to exceed $133,505.50. Mayor, I'm going to ask you if you would just briefly explain the work that's being done. I've seen it, so I have an idea, but for people watching the tape or in the audience, they might not know exactly what's going to be done there.
Yeah, for those who are familiar with the park that is the courts that are there, they will be redone. So it will be actually good surface to play. So we'll do that. There'll be improvements with regard to the I think the parking. What's your name? Yeah, and lighting will be done as well. So that way, it's more opportunities for people to play, and it's going to be a real nice opportunity there. So.
I think sometimes it floods there, and that's going to be fixed too.
Yeah, as part of that, all the lands, all the when you go into the drainage and all the engineering that goes with it, it's not just going in simply paving the court. It will be redone so that way it has it's a proper court and property moving forward in the future.
What's the time frame?
Yeah, I mean this year. I mean as soon as we get this approved, we want it done. We were hoping to get it done in time for the backpack giveaway. I don't think that's likely, but we want to get it done as soon as we can. So we,
Probably going to have to delay the work until after the backpack giveaway so that it's not in the middle
I'll
of
do whatever
construction.
Eric wants, but I think if I tell him that we're delaying a start of this project, I think he'll dodge pavers if he has to. So
Okay. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Baco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Isla?
Yes.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Geiger?
Yes. All right, so that brings us back to the public hearing and final action ordinances. This is 10A. So A, bond ordinance providing an appropriation of $4,205,000 for emergency radio communications system in and by the Township of Bridgewater in the County of Somerset, New Jersey, and authorizing the issuance of $3,994,750 bonds or notes of the township for financing part of the appropriation. With respect to this, I think we're going to have council discussion first, and then I'll open it for public discussion. Do you have did you have a presentation for it? The breakdown of the
yeah,
of the
we do have the
funding?
breakdown, and we can pass those down for anybody who wants it. I know that there was discussion at the last meeting, and the council's been aware of this issue in general, but I will just like to make a few quick comments, and I would note that former Councilman Alan Credilla is here, and who may be the expert on this, along with, you can see some of our first responders in the audience, of course, our police command staff. But just as a reminder for the council, for any of the public who's not familiar, maybe watching with this issue, there has been changes, there is being changes kind of forced upon us with regard to the radio system, such that our first responders, whether they be fire, rescue, police, anybody who uses first responders, our radios won't work starting in January. Somebody back here can speak more technically on this. Jamie Edwards is here, of course, our OEM coordinator. And so this is one of these issues where if we want to be able to respond to fire, EMS, police, public works, emergencies, anything, our first responders need these radios. This is not something that we have decided as kind of a, we just want to upgrade because we think it's time to upgrade. This is it's close to a dire emergency as we get in terms of being able to provide emergency services to our public. So what is before the council is a bond ordinance that would cover all the needs of our first responder community. Now, the council may, of course, be aware that our fire districts do have, they separately tax. We don't, in the township, we don't provide for fire. However, in discussion over probably 2 years or more looking at this issue, trying to figure out how to resolve it. Do we have the options are? To have the fire departments, the districts all go out and separately bond purchase radios doesn't make any sense. Financially, it doesn't make any sense because we can get better deals by doing it in one time. There's less cost for the bonding that goes with it overall. And at the end of the day, it's still the same group of, it's other than wanting to have a typical government argument about whose budget it comes out of. The reality is that it's literally the same taxpayers, and so this is the most efficient way of providing, for these radios, as opposed to us just telling the fire districts to all fight amongst them, fight for themselves. So that is what is being proposed here. The breakdown's been given in terms of the radios, where they would be distributed, how that would be broken up between the fire districts, the fire departments, and the first responder community. So, and I would note also, just as a reminder to everybody, while fire districts do have taxing power through the fire commissions, our volunteer rescue squads do not. They are not supported by anybody other than the generous donations of the public. We do give a little bit of money. The fire districts might give a little bit of money, but the bottom line is that they're not getting money directly through taxation to fund their budgets. That's largely coming from their work and the generosity of the public. So they are probably in the worst shape overall of any of the organizations about what they can do about these radios. So we're asking the council to move forward with this so that we can get the radios, get the money set for the orders, get this moving. And the other aspect to keep in mind here is that because we're not the only department or only town dealing with this, there's also a concern in making sure that we get in our orders. We can't wait until November to say, give us all the radios. We have to get them. We have to get them set up. We have to make sure they're working. So there is also a timing concern there. So this would be done through a state contract. So that helps the process. We don't have to go through some of the same rigmarole as if we were going out for completely on our own. And the last thing I'd like to add is we are continuing to pursue funding sources. Rob, Deputy Administrator Field, has been working with our federal elected officials, with Senator Kim's office, with Congressman Kane's office, working to see if there's federal money available. I know Councilman Ring and Councilman Cordilla have been working through when Councilman Cordilla was on the council. So we are still pursuing other sources of money to help cover and offset these costs. And if we get that, we will certainly, of course, continue to pursue that. But in the meantime, this is something that we need to move forward with.
So I have a lot of comments. First of all, anyone who watched the last meeting, I created an ad hoc committee of Councilman Bucko and Councilman Kirsch to look into a different bond issue. And then Councilman Kirsch came back to me and said, well, I'm looking into this issue. Somebody has to look into the bond issue, the $4.2 million issue, which was his way of saying, okay, Joan, this is your project. So thank you.
We work together.
We did. And I learned a lot. Yeah, thank you. I learned a lot. In terms of this particular handout, just so the public knows, it's a breakdown of the 4.2 million. And I'm going to ask, can this be made more public so that the public can see it too?
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't want to criticize anyone, but this is the kind of thing that is really helpful if we have it more in advance. And to that end, I want to compliment the chief, Chief Mitzak. I also want to compliment Lieutenant Edwards and Officer Grimm. I met with them, and I met with the town administrator, Pappas, I think it was last week. I want to say the police department was 100% prepared. Officer Grimm, they were 100% prepared. They were able to answer every question that I had, and they were able to really give a full breakdown as far as the police department was concerned. And I have a lot of confidence that Officer Grimm and Lieutenant Edwards are really on top of this, okay? And I want to add a couple things that I learned from that meeting. One, if we pass the bond at this meeting, there's about a 99.99% assurance that we will have the radios on time. I'm an attorney. I will never give you a 100% guarantee of anything, right?
Other than taxes and death.
That's true. But the goal is to have them earlier, to allow for setup and better pricing, okay? So that's the goal. If there are ancillary costs, they would be very minimal. The county will pay for the programming, so that was very helpful. I'm not 100% clear on who pays for the programming for the fire and rescue, but I believe that will also be paid for by the county. Does anybody know?
My understanding is the county is not paying for the programming.
No.
The county is actually increasing the number of vendors that they authorize to do the programming for a fee. So the county, what happens is when a radio is purchased, that radio comes in, that model number has to be programmed into the county system that generates a radio ID.
My understanding is that the county is paying for that.
That they do, but then that radio has to go to a third-party vendor who actually programs in all of the frequencies and makes the radio operational.
So there are going to be some costs. I don't know if they're listed here.
Lieutenant Edwards is willing to come up.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, the quotes all include all programming and installation. So their state bid price, we deal with one vendor, and just double checking, the quotes include all programming and installation services. So it is a very complex process.
So if a radio costs $6,500, that $6,500 includes the portion of the program that Councilman Ring was talking about.
Correct. It's very complicated because county communications and the trunking radios are very complicated. I think perhaps what we're talking about is the
radio
county programming aspect of it. There's programming the channels, but then Somerset County has unique identifiers for every radios, which is one of the safety systems that are built in. So if I click my radio right now, it should say Edwards. So if I were unable to speak, they would know that I was clicking the radio. And every radio gets programmed with a unique identifier, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And you have to have a radio ID that the serial number, the county has to load that into the system. Otherwise, you'll get bonked every time you key that radio. It prevents somebody from gaining access that should not have access to those channels.
And since you're here, I'll let you confirm or tell me I'm wrong. So the bond itself, it talks about a 10-year time frame for the lifespan of the radios, but it's my understanding that the general feeling is that these radios will probably last a fair amount longer than that.
Depends on the manufacturer, but generally 10 years is a fair assessment. So for example, the police department, our radios are 10 years. They're out of warranty, out of serviceable life, so they're nearing the end of their life. We're hanging on by a thread. And the goal going forward would be to set up a program on a rotating basis, probably 7 years down the road, to start replacing some of these. However, they accomplish that, the individual agencies. But what this bond ordinance does is it kind of does a shared service where we're providing radios for police, the fire districts, and for the EMS agencies. It gets everybody with new radios and gets everybody the ability to communicate with each other, which is one of the things we talked about, Madam President, is interoperability, which is, I'll throw out some keywords from emergency management. It's interoperability. We have shared service, and one of the things that we're being told in emergency management is to think about the township. So we're like the mayor said, we're sharing the load among all the taxpayers as opposed to the individual fire districts and so on. And the rescue squads obviously have private funding. They don't get government funding except for our small stipend.
Okay.
Interoperability was something that actually came out of the 911 Commission and is been identified. It's critical.
Remember that.
Interoperability. Yeah. End of life means the manufacturer doesn't support it. So their radio may work, but if it breaks tomorrow, they can't necessarily get it fixed. So you could go well past 10 years, depending upon, does that officer not drop his radio? There are a lot of different factors into it.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't know who I should address this question to, but thank you for this breakdown and I know the public hasn't seen it yet, but like the model numbers are there for a lot of them. Some of them just say mobile, portable radios and accessories, and then the pricing per unit is also very different. So for example, for almost double the number, again, different models, for the police department, you're paying around the same amount for like Martinsville Volunteer Fire Department, and then in North Branch for quantity of 4, you're paying almost $270,000, but it looks like it's for a car, van, SUV.
There's portables, there's mobiles. Portables are cheaper than mobiles.
Okay.
And we're dealing, the firefighters have different needs. So a lot of our firefighters go into adjoining counties, which have different radio systems. So the cost is a little bit higher because they need dual band. I'm not the radio.
It's not even other.
But yeah, UHF versus VHF, and that's a more expensive, basically doubles the price of the radio.
Yeah.
Our police officers, we're all on VHF, so we don't need dual band radio. So that's why our portables per unit are cheaper.
And it's not even.
And then some of the fire departments and rescue squads, this bond also covers base stations for the ability for them to dispatch and communicate with themselves from their stations, mobile radios for their apparatus. A mobile radio is the radio that's in the car. These are portable radios. So we were trying to the quotes were pages and pages long, so we were just trying to oversimplify things. So this provides for the fire and EMS to kind of fend for themselves and dispatch and communicate amongst themselves, gives them the equipment to set them up to succeed.
Yeah, that's great.
It's also important to note, though, too, we talk about the county system. We have Warren, Watchung, and Franklin that come to mind that actually do not use the county. They have their own radio systems that the municipalities spend large amounts of money to maintain. So like our fire department, they go mutual aid into Warren. It's a different radio system than the rest of Somerset County. So that, to Lieutenant's point, they need more complex radios.
Yeah, as long as it meets their needs, Yeah, thank you.
I didn't say it made sense.
I know.
But
it
Warren,
is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a quick question for council. Chris, am I correct that this is ultimately still the bond ordinance that the final equipment purchase will still come back in front of the council, or is there anything unique about this that changes that?
So the procurement would still come
Right.
back to council either by state contract or bid.
Right. Okay. And so, yeah, I want to make sure I was right about that. So.
From my conversation with Administrator Pappas today is that a couple of units may have already been purchased.
Right. Yeah. Through the.
Vast majority are.
Right.
That's
So-
one of the questions I have, because I understand District 3 purchased, but yet they still have stuff on here.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted to just point out that is that for council, we have the breakdown here, but I just, there's no problem making it public, but just keep in mind that, between now and the time it actually gets purchased, it's possible that somebody comes back and says that, we actually need 22 radios. For anybody in the audience, don't increase your requests, guys. But theoretically, I mean, this is what we estimated as. It's possible by the time the final order gets in that it could be, we need 2 radios less somewhere, or 2 radios more. So this is not a locked in stone
Just
number.
to clarify something Councilman Ring said, District 3 from the fire department, that's Reno, Country Hills, and North Branch, and they were proactive and ahead of the curve, so they've obtained some of their own equipment, and so the ask is a little bit different for them. For example, I think Reno is not looking for anything for their fire company, but Country Hills and North Branch, which are part of District 3 and servicing the township, they have some equipment that they're still looking for. So that's why it's not the same as some of the other agencies.
Gotcha, and I appreciate that. Supplemental
Madam
question.
President, can we take a deeper dive here? I'm sorry, if you were still speaking.
Don't need an answer tonight, but I think with Country Hills and North Branch, I'd like to know, Country Hills and North Branch are unique out of all the organizations on here in that they serve both Bridgewater and Branchburg. And I just want to make sure that we're not absorbing 100% of that cost and that Branchburg is doing something similar to support those organizations.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say we're not, because their ask, for example, Country Hills is for 8 mobile portable radios as opposed to 20 or 30, which one of the other agencies is looking for 54 portable radios. So I think they're sharing, it sounds like they're sharing the service, and District 3 has already absorbed some of these costs.
District 3 has.
Yeah.
And Bridgewater is. But what is Branchburg doing for Country Hills and North Branch?
It's a good question.
And I don't need that answer tonight, but I would like to know that before we award a contract.
All right, Madam President, if I could take a
Yes.
deeper dive here, because I think this is a very important point to understand. So first of all, I support this purchase 100%, but I think some of the devil is in the details. I am concerned about what's gone on with this pre-purchase in District 3, because those taxpayers who live in District 3 already, through their fire district, kind of paid for their own solution, or at least part of their own solution. Now we're going to ask the voters of the entire township, including District 3, which is a vast swath of the town, to now pay for the overall solution. So it feels to me like unless there's some kind of equitable solution figured out here, the voters or the residents, the taxpayers of District 3 are paying far more than their fair share, because they are essentially going to pay some amount of the whole solution that does not include the part that they already paid for. So, they're kind of double paying here. So again, I'm not going to stand in the way of this, but I think it's not a small point that, especially because of the size of District 3, and of course the complication that has just been raised about the fact that I guess two of the companies are in other towns. I guess what I want to make sure is that this is being shared equitably, as it should, that as a community we are paying for what all of our first responders need, but that we don't have a situation where at the end of this exercise, oh, by the way, if you're in District 3, you kind of paid a little too much. So I don't know how that's going to get resolved, but to me it's not an asterisk. It's an important point, because each of these line items is a couple $100,000. I mean, if at the end of the day it was like, all right, well, this resident paid 12 cents more than that resident, I wouldn't really have a leg to stand on. But when we're talking about a couple $100,000 here, I don't think that's 12 cents. I sense it's more.
And I just want to say I share those concerns. I just share the concern of, it just seems to me that all the fire districts should be treated equally. And maybe there's a little bit of a difference here because Country Hills and North Branch, Branchburg needs to contribute to that too. And we're looking at you, but you're not the person that is responsible for this. So you just happen to be standing at the podium. But I do want to acknowledge that I share that concern. I raised it last time, and I think
that shouldn't stand in the way of making the purchase, but I think when we ultimately figure out transfers back and forth and whatnot.
Listen, I'm in District 3, and I wholeheartedly agree. I think that is up to the residents of District 3 to take that message to the Board of Fire Commissioners. I don't think it's our problem. They chose to go out and do it ahead of time on their own, and there may be some reasons. I've heard different stories, and I don't want to speculate whether it's true or not, but I don't think that that's our problem.
I look at it differently. I look at it as potentially a problem of Districts 1, 2, and 4, where they need to go back to their constituency and go back to their voters and explain that over, even if it's a couple-year period, to pay it back, to get to equity, they need to budget for it. One way or another, I think it's important to get to equity, and whether there's some kind of payment that comes out of 1, 2, and 4, or if there's some sort of a credit or money back or something into District 3, somehow we need to get to an even playing field.
Well, here's my recommendation, Mr. Kirsch, to the administration, was that for this project, Bridgewater Township retains ownership of these radios. It's not, they're going to be issued to the fire companies in District 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and into the EMS agencies. They're not going to be given to them. So these radios will be maintained or be owned, by Bridgewater Township. That's our recommendation. But you have an excellent point about the other fire districts not being ahead of the curve. But let me just say, fair to say that this project had a lot of communication issues along the way. This is, the mayor mentioned, I think 3 years ago this started, and it probably could have been, communicated a lot better earlier on down the line. So I applaud District 3 for trying to get ahead of the curve and taking care of it. But what we're asking for tonight is to deliver, communication equipment to the emergency services unit in Bridgewater Township and to everybody.
Well, then perhaps the solution is that if we own it, we pay for all of it, and then a credit somehow is given back to District 3, just so that, again, we're on that even playing field.
We can get some more information in terms of, because again, District 3 is a little bit unique for a couple reasons. One of it, I think it is, it's the largest fire district. They have the most funding, so I think they're probably the most financially independent of the I mean, they're just the largest. I mean, they just have the the biggest budget, I believe, of the other three. They also have the component of Branchburg, which, I don't know to what extent Branchburg has or has not participated. So I think what we can do, again, ultimately, because one, the ultimate purchase and then distribution is still going to have to come back in front of the purchase will have to come back in front of the council. We have another opportunity to obviously look at exactly what's being purchased and how it's being given out. And in the meantime, we can look at a couple of these issues. I don't know that we'll ever get to perfect parity necessarily, but we can certainly look at different solutions to make sure that, and get the answers to your questions about like, well, how much is, what has District 3 paid already? What have they invested? What is that impact? So we actually know, hey, what is, if there's a double payment somewhere, we do know what we're talking about with regard to the impact on residents and to what extent we need to, address it. So we can get those concerns. I don't know if we'll get the perfect parity, but we could definitely.
And I'm not asking for perfect parity. I'm asking for our greatest effort possible to make sure that everybody pays for radios once and nobody pays for them more than once.
Yeah.
And I agree. I just want to make it very clear that I agree with that. I just think fair is fair. Let's be fair. Fair is fair. And we need to just bear that in mind. And I guess the other thing I would say is, I get how complicated this was, and I'm not criticizing anyone, but I think one of the things we're all realizing is we all got to we all have to make as much of an effort as we possibly can to stay on top of these, because there's a multitude of issues. I'm looking at the mayor, and I'm looking at Town Administrator Pappas, the to-do list, and I'm looking this way too, because the to-do lists are pretty long.
And we did confirm, by the way, just now, we'll get the breakdown, but Branchburg did give money towards all of its for radios. But I don't know specifically, as we're sitting here, what that breakdown was as to how much went to District 3 versus its other fire and EMS. So, but they did something, some money into their first responding community.
And I just want to comment too on the grant money. It is, quote, more likely than not that we will get the grant. No guarantee, okay? But the assumption, we are very hopeful that we will at least get some of this reimbursed. So that will definitely help the taxpayers. And right now, we're not spending $4.2 million. We are spending enough money to float the note, to buy the note, and pay the cost of the note that will last for about a year. Well, we're waiting to see what we get from the bond money, from the grant money, and that won't be any sooner than October, the end of October, perhaps? Okay, that's Deputy Administrator Field just said, it won't be any sooner than the end of October. It probably won't be much before the end of the year or the beginning of next year, because we're dependent on Congress potentially for that grant, and we probably won't have that money before then. And I just want to ask you, our current radios, and I know you can only speak for the police department, but the current radios are at or about the end of their lifespan?
For the police department.
Yeah.
And the needs for the fire and EMS are because of changes being made to the county radio system. And so they need to go to a different band and upgrade those radios.
Right, from like, what, 400 or
Yeah, it's for the
500
changes
to
in the trunking
700?
system. So.
And now everybody will be able to talk to each other better, because we'll all be on the same, they'll all be on the same band.
We're not on the same band, we'll have the same ability to communicate. We have an interoperability channel, so we can talk to each other if we need.
And then I want you to answer this question. One resident questioned me as to why can't everybody use their cell phones? And I thought that deserve, I think there's perhaps you can explain that better than I could explain it. I get it, but.
So our trunking radios or portable radios, they give the stability if Somerset County dispatches a message right now, everybody on the radio can hear it. If you use your cell phone, you can't do that realistically. From a safety standpoint, I mentioned each radio is programmed with a unique identifier. As I understand it, for the firefighters, any interior firefighter by NFPA, what is it, National Fire Protective Standards, has to have a portable radio on with a unique identifier and what they call a man-down button, which is a button on your radio. If something happens, you can't speak. In a fire, you would have a self-contained breathing apparatus. You press the button, and it has that unique identifier and helps to locate you in an emergency. That's a safety feature, but they're required.
And they have to be fireproof too, right? Or fire retardant?
Fire radios are designed for
Intrinsically
higher
safe?
temperature and also intrinsically safe. And you read anything about cell phones, they tell you, avoid the heat. And to that point, you have an emergency, let me dial 911 versus I can hit a button.
Lieutenant, when everyone gets updated to the fancy radios, does that mean that Martinsville Fire Department no longer needs to blow the horn as the method of letting people know that there
Question
is
for
a
the fire
fire?
commissioners, but I understand the question.
Anybody from Martinsville's listening? I'm only joking, mostly.
It is a
Matt-
cool looking whistle, though.
Madam President, just a couple things. I want to just make sure that I heard you correctly. On the police side, we are at the end of the lifespan.
Correct.
So this is fairly good timing.
Yes.
How about on the other side? Did we get our relative lifespan out of existing equipment, or did we leave a lot of tread on the
For
tires?
the police department?
No, for any of the other,
We don't own.
We don't know.
We don't own.
But again,
we don't own those.
Correct.
Okay.
and they have to go to a different type of radio. So
No, I understand. What my question, I'm just trying to understand, the timing seemed good on the police side.
Yes.
On the fire, EMS, and DPW side, to the extent that they have communication equipment, did we get our money's worth there, or unfortunately did the timing result in leaving a lot on the table?
And speak to, again, the police department where the timing is right, because our expenses right now and our cost to repair these radios are astronomical because Motorola stopped servicing them. But Officer Grimm's doing a great job trying to piece them together and get us across the finish line. This is going to give us restore service, radio service for DPW, which will allow their trucks to communicate better in storms, allow law enforcement and DPW to talk to each other. And again, the fire and EMS, I can't speak to their individual inventories, but I do know that this is going to get them to the right system on Somerset County. So theoretically, I think it's December 31st, Somerset County is shutting down the trunking system that exists now, and these new radios are needed.
In part, Councilman Kirsch, I can answer part of your question, because actually, when PD got these radios that they have now, was at the time the migration from Bridgewater Dispatch to County Comms. There are portables that Bridgewater had, that they owned at that time, dual band portables, that were then reissued to EMS agencies as part of the migration from township to county dispatch. So at least on the EMS side, I will tell you that they've gotten more than their lifetime out of those radios on the EMS side.
I'm happy to hear that, because at some point, some taxing authority or some taxpayer paid for these things, and I just want to make sure, even though we can't control it, that hopefully we got as much life as we could, and now we'll get as much life out of this new system.
The District 3 used to maintain their own radio system. So when we talked about Warren Watchung, District 3 had a whole nother separate system that was nearing its end of life, I understand. I don't know that for a fact, so.
All right, and then just one final comment. There was commentary before about the $4.2 million grant, and we're going to discuss this as probably part of the bonding conversation for 10C, and what we've bonded and what we have capacity for. Unfortunately, an IOU for $4.2 million is terrific, but until we have it in hand, we have to anticipate that we may be on the hook for $4.2 million, and to the extent that that impacts our bonding capacity for other things, until we get a check for all or some of that money, we have to presume it's encumbered.
So Lieutenant, I'm going to ask you to stay here if you don't mind, because I think we're going to have a public comment section. So if anybody has questions from the public that you can answer better than we can, which I assume that would be true for a lot of the questions, you're here, you're still here. So can I have a motion to open this to the public for public discussion?
Just one,
Okay, sorry.
one item before we do that. The question was asked about, well, could cell phones be an alternative? And cell phones rely on being able to communicate with a cell phone tower, which we saw after
9/11.
Sandy,
right?
After prolonged power outages, some of the cell phone towers just stopped working. And if you don't know the answer to this, that's okay. I'm not expecting you to. But do you know if the radios work point to point, as in, you broadcast from your radio and all the other radios pick up that particular broadcast, or does it go back to a central, the central system and then
It's a trunking radio system, so I don't know if it does do that, but if I key the microphone, it finds the closest Somerset County tower. Off the top of my head, Mount Prospect Road has one, and there's, I think, 10 or 15 throughout the
Miller
county.
Lane.
And it finds the closest radio tower, retransmits it from there, which goes back out to the radio. So they have-
No, I just said Miller Lane. We were
Miller
talking
Lane's
about
there
the
too. Yeah,
Hawk
depends
Watch
on where you
earlier. There's multiple towers throughout the county.
Okay. Okay, but.
So it's not point to point on the radio, it's point to tower to
Okay.
point.
So it still relies on a base station somewhere to work.
I don't know if it's actually a base station, but a tower.
Tower, yeah.
But, to that point, the reason I mentioned Miller Lane, when he talked about Mount Prospect is the border of Washington Valley Road with Pluckaman. And then you also have one right off of Voss. Like, there's overlap in tower coverages in a good portion of the area.
Understood. Thank you.
Is there any further council discussion? Can I have a motion to open this to the public?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
So members of the public wishing to address council on this issue will have 3 minutes to speak, which may be extended in the discretion of the council president. An additional minute will be allotted for responses to comments from the dais. Would anyone like to address this issue? Mr. Cardilla, it's a pleasure to see you again.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Council President. Sitting and listening to the discussion, it's something that I've lived with for a very, very long time. You're getting into a world with fire departments and emergency services where, as I mentioned at the last time I spoke, your head spins because you don't get straight. The answers are always convoluted. But what I will say is the importance of this. 49 years ago, June 30th, 1976, Sterling Converting burned down. 300,000 square foot building, and I was the fire chief. At that time, there was one radio, one frequency.
Wow.
The assistance that we had in communicating that night was from the Bridgewater Police Department. I believe Captain Voorhees at that time reached out to Officer Jimmy Atfield. He's shadowed me during that event for 2 days. We had two radios. We had the high band fire radio, and I had a police officer with a radio who could then take our concerns, go to the dispatch center in Bridgewater, and get things done. So any way I look at it, this is the radios we have today is a major improvement over what we had at that time. And what we're going to be talking about and hopefully funding tonight will be a major improvement over what we currently have. You know, we talk about point-to-point with cell phones and cell towers. With the time I spent with the county, with OEM, you know, I think there's five cell towers, I think, Tim, around the county. And there were dead spots and so forth. And a significant amount of time was spent in working with the towers and checking soft spots and so on. And I know with the current radios, a lot of work has been put in to correct that. Miller Lane was where the Miller Lane Tower is where Bridgewater used to dispatch from to the east end of the township. The problem was the phone cable that provided signal to that was an old phone, Bell telephone lead cable, and it used to get water in it. And I'll find the article where I got called to the mayor's office because I complained. The mayor thought that I was complaining about dispatching, and all I was trying to say, we have a bad connection. And it turned out that, yeah, the Mayor Dowden finally did reach out to Bell Telephone, and they did replace the cable. So there's a lot of history with this. There's a lot of history with the fire districts speaking and trying to work this out. And the details of it all, I'm not going to go public with, but some people cooperate and others don't. So I ask each of you, I commend each of you for your concerns and your questions. I think they're all valid. They truly are. But it is when you get into the communication schedule with the programming and the registering of the radios, I stay away from it because it just gets crazy. You know, as Tim will explain, you know, we get called into, of course, we have a RIT team. We're called all over the county. We're up in Watchung, we're in Warren, we're in Middlesex, we're all over the place. We got guys walking around with 3 radios. So this fixes that problem. So I commend everybody for your thoughts of support. I also commend you for asking questions, even though to me the questions are very frustrating because I've lived with them for a very, very, very long time. And as far as moving forward, I know in our budget we're going to be contributing to the capital plan every year. So when we get down the road, we're not in this position again. It's a lot easier to do, you know, a $50,000 allotment over time to build up a fund to replace radios. So, but, you know, the request right now with everything we have going on was just too much, too much of a burden. So that's why we're asking for help. And for everybody on the dais, thank you.
I just want to ask you, when the fire that you talked about in the beginning, I just want to acknowledge, you were a volunteer firefighter. You've always been a volunteer.
Strictly volunteer. Yeah. At that time,
Thank you for that.
You know, looking at that call, you grow up fast. You really do. And you realize the significance of being a chief officer with the responsibilities that you have. Mm. And you're amazed at what people will do when you work as a team. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Albano? We do know who you are, and we do know where you live.
Good evening, distinguished members of the council, Mr. Mayor. Nice to see you again.
Current neighbor, or permanent neighbor, current neighbor, temporary neighbor?
Future neighbor?
That's right.
Future neighbor?
Future neighbor?
Another current neighbor? Yeah.
I can hit his house with a baseball bat. With a baseball. Not that I would, but Mr. Pappas, learned counsel, of course, the esteemed town clerk. My name is Robert Albano. You know that already. I live on 1149 Papin Road on the corner of Roger Avenue. I think you know that also. Anyway, I want to give you a number. I joined the rescue squad in 2004, and the number I'm going to give you is over 21,000. What does that mean? It's the number of calls that Martinsville responded to. In the Martinsville area, the Greenville area, some Somerville, some Boundbrook, some not Watchung, Warren, Bedminster. Communication is absolutely important. and communication amongst fire and police is essential to public safety. Now, why do we need the new radios? Tell you the truth, I don't know why, other than the system has changed. Why did I have to buy a digital television? I don't know why, except my analog television did not work.
Why'd you have to get rid of your flip phone?
Or my flip phone.
I know. I know.
So I am in full support of this, and I believe you're doing the right thing and spending the money. Public safety is at what we're talking about. And Alan Padilla told you about what it used to be like. And yes, I was on the squad when we had the old VHF radios, Tim. The handheld ones that had the dead spots around town.
Well, used to be on a tower, but where was Jamie? Where was it in Joe's old quarry? Where's the tower that Chip had? Oh no, on Mountaintop. Logan Road. And Logan Road. That used to be an old tower on Logan Road.
Yeah.
That system worked off of.
Well, anyway, we had problems.
Always had phone
back
line
then,
problems
and,
too.
Yeah, sometimes you'd have to whip out your cell phone. Hopefully it worked, but that's not the way you can communicate in the event of an emergency. So we need the radios. We can't afford them. If we had to buy the radios, we'd sell the building and then we could buy the radios, but then we'd have no place to dispatch out of. So I support this, and as a taxpayer, I'm willing to pay for it and then some. So I commend you all for the effort you're putting into it, and I thank you for thinking about it, but we're dealing with public safety. It has to be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I wanted to thank especially, I know everyone, I can't remember who showed up, but like 5 a.m. I had an emergency, the Martinsville Rescue Squad, the police department, the EMT, everyone showed up. It was literally the perfect storm, snow, they shoveled my driveway just to come up. My cell phone regularly never works if people have called me, but your radios seem to work that night, so thank you again for saving my life, and I hope this new technology helps you save even more lives in the future.
Is there any further comments?
Seeing no one, I move to close public comment and move for final action.
I'll second. All in favor of closing public comment and moving to final action?
Aye.
Aye.
So can we have a roll call on the approval of the bond ordinance for $4,205,000?
Councilman Burko?
Yes.
Councilwoman Isla?
Yes.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Geiger?
Yes. Congratulations, we now will have new radios. Can we take a short break, no more than 5 minutes?
You're the council president.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Okay, the meeting is resumed. So moving on to 10B, bond ordinance providing an appropriation of $1,900,000 for various road improvements, including but not limited to Country Club Road, Ardsley Lane, and Goldfinch Drive, otherwise known as NJDOT FY 2025 Municipal Aid Project, Van Vechten Drive, and South Avenue, otherwise known as NJDOT FY 2024 Local Transportation Projects Fund Project, and Garrettson Road, New Jersey DOT FY 2024 Safe Routes to School District preliminary engineering, including curbing, milling, paving, drainage, and other miscellaneous improvements, and various road overlays throughout the township in and by the township of Bridgewater in the county of Somerset, New Jersey, and authorizing the issuance of $1,805,000 bonds or notes of the township for financing part of the appropriation. And it, just a comment, we're gonna do council discussion first and then public discussion, but it is my understanding that we will be receiving grants to fund this, but we have to front the money and then we get paid back. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any further comment?
Well, I mean, I'll state that for right now, that is sufficient. I think as we go to 10C in a few minutes, we'll give a much more detailed explanation about our bonding condition and how we should be looking at our encumbrances. But I think just to advance this part of the conversation now, you've hit it on the head.
Okay.
It's not free money, but it will be returned to us in a timely manner.
We do pay, I think we have to pay for the note initially. It costs us something, but we're getting a lot for
We
it.
get a lot more for what it costs us.
Right. It's not free money, but it's a huge help.
Yes. Can I have a motion to
Motion to open public comment.
Okay. Members of the public wishing to address the council on 10B?
You
On
need
it.
a second? No.
Oh, sorry. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Members of the public wishing to address the council on any matter, on this matter in particular, on 10B, will have 3 minutes to speak, which may be extended in the discretion of the council president. An additional minute will be allotted for responses to comment from the dais. Is there any member of the public that would like to address this issue? Mr. Albano, you don't have to sign in, you're already signed in.
Honorable Council, I compliment you on your effort, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Administrator, and learned clerk and council. I'm specifically want to talk about the road ordinance. Several years ago, Papin Road was repaved. Did a wonderful job, except the last part. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that you know about it, but I would just like to see that last portion of the road paved so that the new residents who bought the last house on Papin Road can actually use their baby stroller, and that the original owner who lives on the second to the last house on Papin Road can walk on the street because it is so broken up and crumbly that it is not so good. So I don't know what you can do about it, but you're going to spend some money and do a whole bunch of roads, but maybe that job could be completed.
We're still waiting for the road plan for.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I don't know if it was commented as I was walking in, but the what we have tonight with regard to 10B is the roads that we have grant money for, so there's a timing issue with those. And I anticipate as part of the larger kind of bonding question that I think Councilman Kirsch alluded to, that starts the conversation with 10C, but may continue. The administration still intends on proposing additional road work to be done this year. I don't know yet whether that portion of pavement road will be on there, but it is something that I can, obviously I know my kids can't ride their bikes. That's a really bad section of road. It's not, should have been done when it was done at the time. So whether that section will get on this year, I don't know, but we do plan on proposing additional road work, throughout the town.
Maybe something could be done temporarily for some of the really bad ruts in the road.
The potholes?
Yeah,
More than you've described more than potholes.
It's like
though.
broken up. I mean, some sections of that road, it's almost,
Non-road?
yeah, I mean, this is like just, the whole part is being torn up. I mean, it's not like a pothole or two.
It's the gravel is.
Yeah, it's bad.
You know.
And unfortunately, when it gets to that, sometimes it's not as easy just milling and paving because,
You have to do cleanup.
well, and make sure the base.
That's where you get into complete reconstruction. And
That's exactly what happened with that.
Unfortunately, that may be what happens to roads that don't get taken care of.
That was one of the issues that when we first did the road plan is trying to avoid situations like this where you have kind of, one, roads that need to be rebuilt, and two, almost these orphan pieces of road that now it's a lot of money for a smaller piece that's not connected to other aspects. At one point, I was hoping that we could do it with when Roger Avenue was repaved, something we also stopped. It was done, if anybody's familiar with the road, it has half of it's paved, half of it's not. Like literally from the center line over. We stopped doing that because we partnered with the gas company, the water company, that when they do that, we don't have that occur anymore in Bridgewater. We work it out in our plan so that we work with them to make sure entire roads get paved. So the problem with Roger is that half the road's in okay shape. The other half of the road needs to be redone, but it's like you'd like to try to do Roger and then Papin at that same time, but Papin needs it probably before Roger will.
Anyway, no, I remember when the water lines were put in and they paved that half of the road, and I'm saying, why isn't the whole thing being done? Now it is being done that way. Anyway, I appreciate your consideration. I know you will do the best you can.
Thank you.
I'll be back.
Since Mr. Albano has concluded his comments and there's no other members of the public here, I will move to close public comment and move for final action.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can we have a roll call?
Councilman Bucko,
Yes.
Councilwoman Isla,
Yes.
Councilman Kirsch,
Yes.
Councilman Ring,
Yes.
President Geiger.
Yes. All right, moving on to 10C, bond ordinance providing an appropriation of $2.5 million for various drainage improvements, including but not limited to Spring Run neighborhood area, 1024 Brown Road area, Brown Road / Carteret Road area, and other miscellaneous drainage improvements throughout the township in and by the Township of Bridgewater in the County of Somerset, New Jersey, and authorizing the issuance of $2,375,000 in bonds or notes of the township for financing part of the appropriation. Can I have, is there any? There is. There's a fair amount of council discussion on this, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's probably an understatement, that there'll be considerable conversation. So I don't know if you want to allow me to lead the conversation for a little bit.
Sure, of course. Of course.
First, I want to acknowledge the partnership with Councilman Bucko, the subcommittee that we formed. In the intervening time since we were here 2 weeks ago, we took our charge very, very seriously. Including getting to work that night via email and requesting availabilities for meeting. That started, within hours of the meeting. Conversations, I know we spoke while I was in transit that weekend. Councilman Buck and I have spoken numerous times on this. The highlight is that we had a meeting on July 1st that included, I'm sure I'm going to forget people, but it included, Councilman Bucko and myself. It included Administrator Pappas. I believe Deputy Administrator Field was on that call. I know that it also involved our engineer, Bill Burr. It involved our bond advisor, Anthony Inverso, and our bond counsel, John Drakowitz. I'm sure I'm forgetting someone. It's not because, Sarah Hausman, correct. Our CFO was on there. Thank you. So we covered two areas. One was the specific engineering circumstance with these projects. I'd actually like to parking lot that for a moment and really talk about the underlying question of our bonding situation, our bonding posture, if you will. So we held that meeting. And just to report out, I know I sent the email to each of you that has all this detail, but for the interest of the public, for the recording, anybody who might be hearing us, our current state, I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'm just going to highlight it. We have had a strong reputation as an investment vehicle, Bridgewater Township, and we do have a very strong bond rating right now, rated at AA. We are certainly mindful of the importance of maintaining a high bond rating, and that's why we took the steps to increase our surplus for 2026, and presumably that'll be a trend in the coming years too. There are outer limits, and this was one of the biggest things that we were interested in understanding. There are outer limits for the amount that Bridgewater can comfortably bond from the investment community standpoint, but considerable capacity, that doesn't mean we're going to use it, but capacity does still exist. Bridgewater holds $85 million of debt right now, and we are paying back $4.5 million of principal in 2026. And we have an equalized value, and this is important, of $12.1 billion. And the reason that's important is that feeds some other ratios that I'm going to talk about. So as far as thinking about, well, what is our outer limit?
Could you just repeat that? We have $85 million.
$85 million of current debt.
Okay, and what do
We're
we
paying
pay
back 4.5
in principal
of principal.
every year? Or,
Well, that's the plan for this year.
okay.
That's the plan for this year. So, and again, I can repeat as many of these numbers as is necessary. I think it is important to spend the time to really understand this, both on the dais as well as anyone who in the audience here or who may be watching the recording. So municipalities, this is a very important point, can bond up to 3.5% of their equalized value. In our case, that would be $424 million. But it would be highly irresponsible to go anywhere near that. It is instead recommended that bonding remains less than 1% of your equalized value. 1% of 12 billion is roughly 120 million. So that number is certainly a very important outer limit for us to consider. Our current debt of 85 million is roughly 0.7% of equalized value. So again, there is that. If we were to choose to go to 120, that would give us about a $35 million capacity. Again, not saying for a moment that we would go there. That's sort of that outer limit. The second outer limit to consider is the annual bonding impact, because we have a carrying charge. Our carrying charge right now is roughly 13%. A preferred carrying charge, generally speaking, carrying charges are going to vary between 10% and 15%, preferably 10. So we are between those numbers, but clearly we're not at the lower end of that number.
And by carrying charge, you mean the interest and
Interest
the
that you
principal,
have
or
to pay.
just the interest?
Interest only.
Okay.
The interest only.
And it's 13%.
We are at
We're not paying 13% interest. It's 13%
of our budget. Of our budget.
13% of the budget.
13% of our budget is going to service debt.
Sure, yeah, the interest and principal.
Okay, all right. So
Yeah.
so interest and principal.
Debt service overall, yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. So again, typically the number's 10 to 15. So we're in that number. So that's good news. We're not at the lower end of the number. We're in the middle part of that number. Generally speaking, municipalities that exceed 15%, and especially those that tend toward 20%, and there are municipalities that do that, exhibit what you would consider a troubling behavior that could definitely result in negative consequence as they attempt to finance further than that. So if we use that 15% as our outside number, that would allow us to go up to roughly 100. So by the first measure, you could go to 120. By this measure, really 100 is kind of where the warning lights would start to really flash. And as I said, we're at 85 minus the principal that we're going to pay back. Important to note that sewer bonding and use of the iBank, while part of our full debt structure, debt picture, not part of these calculations. Our current utilization via the sewer utility, I don't have the exact number, but it is on the low side. I know we're not talking sewer right here. That's why I didn't dive into that. Short-term debt that is quickly repaid, and again, we just authorized 1.9 million, is considered, but there's a bit of an asterisk there, because we're going to probably pay it back before it becomes or needs to become a long-term note. So again, it's not free money, but it's seen in its context. And the other comment that I have, and then maybe I'll stop and see if there are any questions on what I've said so far, or see if Councilman Bucko, if I might have missed anything. Short-term blips, as may be needed for what we just did a few moments ago, $4.2 million for the communication equipment, are generally recognized and accepted. Municipalities don't necessarily have an ability to bond the same X number of million year after year after year. There can be these instances where we have a $4 million purchase. That's going to be maybe not a one-time thing, but certainly we won't have to revisit that for 10 or 15 years. So let me go one more section and then I'll stop and see if there are any questions. So the likely reaction to our potentially exceeding bonding from previous years. From a Wall Street perspective, we definitely have the capacity, so there is low likelihood of negative consequence. But with that said, Mayor and Council will have to decide where is our comfortable level. And I just did some math here, as we were completing our work. We just authorized $8,605,000 of spending. Now there's two asterisks on that. 1.9 million of that is going to be replenished very, very quickly. So if you discount that, we have, or put that in a different bucket, we authorized $6,705,000.
No, we only authorized 4.2 million so far, right?
Well, all right.
Okay.
Assuming we do all three of these.
Yeah, no, I want
I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. You're correct.
I just want to be clear in my
You're
head.
right.
that's all.
You're correct. Assuming that we do all three.
Yeah,
At
okay.
a point where we do all three, we would be at 8,605,000. If you put that 1.9 million in sort of that special bucket,
Right.
we still have 6.705 million. Now there's another asterisk though, that's the 4.2 million. Now the challenge with the 4.2 million though is we don't have a check for that. We have high hope and reasonable expectation, but until we have that money, we don't have that money.
So that would put us at about, not counting the 1.9 million, but if you take 85 million and you add to that 4.2, 4.2, and
Well, you also have to subtract the.
But you subtract the principal payment. So again, we're still in an okay range. Well, I shouldn't say that. Each of us will have to come to their conclusion. It seems as though we are still in a reasonable range, but we are bonding more than we have before.
we're getting close to.
We're getting closer, and it bears noting, and then maybe I'll stop. I will definitely stop and first ask Councilman Bucko if there's anything I may have missed or anything that he may have incremental on his notes. I tried to be as thorough as I could, but I'm sure there might be something missing. The critical piece here is, we're getting closer to having a challenge, and oh, by the way, we have not even had a discussion of the PSE&G restoration roadways or the NJ American Water prep work,
they pay for
or even 1 inch of additional roads as
We
part
don't
of our
pay for
program.
when the water company digs up the road, the water company does the work.
But we have a responsibility for part of it. We have, according to the document I have here, the NJAW coordination prep work.
No, if the road company digs up the road.
No, you're talking apples and oranges. So I think you're right and Michael's right. Because we work with the water company and the gas company to get more road work done for some of their projects, we've reached agreements with them with regard to the work that we would do to further the road project we want.
Credits and stuff.
Yes.
But ultimately, if to get these roads paved, there will be a partial payment that we need to make. Same thing with the PSE&G. There will be a certain amount of money. And in addition, any other, what I'll just simply call discretionary roads, including but not limited to the fact that we decided, the council last year, decided to cut back on our originally intended 2025 roads program. So there are some roads that we committed to last year that we didn't get to. And then there's also a potential list of 26 roads. And of course, each and every day, whether by email or people we see in the supermarket or people we have come to the dais, to the podium here each and every day, more request and more need is coming.
I just want to clarify one thing based upon, because I know a lot of numbers have been thrown around, but we started at $85 million. We're going to pay back 4.5. We just agreed to 4.2. So in round numbers, we're still at 85. Hold on. We then have 1.9 that we're going to get reimbursed for these grant projects. So in reality, we're not, yes, there's an impact, but we're not increasing that, as Councilman Kirsch said, long time. So despite the fact that $6.1 million in bonds were just approved tonight, when you factor in...
It's not a net. Right.
When you factor in, we're 4.5 million reduction, and the fact that the 1.9 will be reimbursed, we're at a net zero.
Well, we're at a net zero until we take action potentially on 2.5 million.
No, I understand that.
Right.
But I just...
Right. But it bears noting that there will be other needs requested.
Understood.
So by my math, even if you kind of take the 1.9 and put it in a special category, we will be at a plus 6.7, take out the 4.5 or whatever that number is that we're going to pay back, we do come out, even with the 1.9 asterisk, about a plus 2 million, give or take. And that's without having had a conversation about all these other things. So now it's up to each of us, to say, that's an acceptable amount, that's not an acceptable amount, we are painted into a corner, we're not painted into a corner, and how we're going to handle future requests. So did I capture, hopefully some high percentage?
Yeah, I believe you did. I think the key takeaway is that the money's not free. The borrowing now reduces the capacity to borrow in the future, obviously, and also increases the amount of debt service that we will be committed to paying in future years. The question that all of us need to consider and answer is that to what you said, what is the level that we're comfortable with? What is the level that is appropriate? And what is the level that fulfills the needs of the members of the community?
And I think that's a key point that you just made about that, because part of that, the analysis is the one, what is the cost on, what is the impact on the budget each year, right? So you have capacity, the numbers that Councilman Kirsch mentioned about, which under those numbers, about just talking pure capacity, even assuming we don't get any grant money for the radios, that would still say theoretically we could bond another 11.5 million or 12 million before you're up to the 100 number, which is already kind of that conservative range. But nobody's we're not suggesting that we do that. But the other part of it is the cost of next year or future year's budgets. But I think, Councilman Bucko, it's also the problem that we always have is, the being able to provide the services that residents want, right? We could come back and say, we're not going to do any more roads this year, right? That's certainly something that could be done. I don't think that that's ultimately what. I won't speak for the council, but that's not what we're proposing, obviously, of course. But it's, that's the challenge: is how do you come back and say, guys, hey, we don't really want to bond an extra little bit of money this year, but we're not doing the following 10 roads, or do we say, we're going to do those 10 roads, but we also have to do radios and we have to do this other stuff, and as a result of that, there's your point. There's a cost, and and that was the
question
challenge.
is, at what point does the cost come due? Now it's. In the sphere of roads, it comes due if we borrow now and repave roads. Well, obviously the borrowed money comes due when the bonds are due. On the flip side, if no action is taken, then it comes due when the roads disintegrate to the point of there being nothing left.
And more costly later.
Right. That, that comes due in a different way. But it is still a bill that has to be paid. Just the question is how and when do we pay it?
And I think it's also important to the balancing all of this, I think it's pretty safe to say, Mr. Pappas, that these proposed drainage issues, these are some of the worst, that there's more, like, if we had an unlimited budget, we could do a lot more work.
Yeah, and if I could real quick, I'll speak about the drainage in a second, but kind of from a broader point, what the other aspect, we talk about roads a lot because that's the most public facing. Roads is you get the best bang for your buck. It's the most visible. Depending on what roads you do, you can get the most, pardon the pun, mileage out of it. We have a whole host of other things that we haven't done. Now, drainage, we've done some drainage. Drainage projects are tough because they're very expensive, and oftentimes it's not like a road where thousands of people throughout the year are going to be using the road, and you can go and say, hey guys, here's the road we did. The problem with drainage is expensive, and sometimes, while it may have a more limited impact, the residents who are impacted can be severely impacted. I mean, it's one of those things that, and so that's always a challenge. You sit there and say, do I spend $1 million on a project that impacts a small number of households, or do I spend $1 million on roads? And the answer is oftentimes roads, but it gets to a point where we can't ignore those other projects. And so what you have with the projects that are proposed in 10C are projects that, one has been on the Brown Road, the two different Brown Road projects that we've been trying to work through. Certainly, I think they were coming before I was on the council. I remember some of these residents coming forward. We've been trying to work through them for 6.5 years to get it to a point where we tried to avoid other solutions, and got to a point now where the residents have been patient. They've been working with us, but at some point we can't keep kicking it down the road.
We delayed Spring Run. We did some of the roads for repaving because we didn't want to repave and have the flooding issues ruin the pavement.
Right. So Spring Run. So the two Brown Road projects, those have been literally been working on them since almost day one. I think I've been in the mayor's office trying to address those problems, which are localized. There's no question that those are local. The impacts are not widespread, but for those residents impacted, it's enormous. With Spring Run, what we'd like to be able to do is start doing roads in that area, but it would be foolish for us to spend the money on paving those roads if we're not addressing the underlying drainage, which is either going to then, cause the road work we do to be not last as long, or could even make the drainage worse because now we're, got roads that are more surface that they're being done. So that's how those projects came about. But for the purpose of the kind of larger discussion about bonding, keep in mind that although we also have roads that we'd like to do this year and in future years, there's all those other less than public facing needs that are also at some point in time, I don't want to talk publicly about some of the security issues in the building, but the building needs security upgrades in a way that would probably concern a lot of people if they understood, that those issues. Sewer utility has needs. We have other that stuff that it's, the public's not going to be coming in here yelling at us about certain things, but at some point in time, if the infrastructure fails and we can't provide, internet services and everything else in the building, that's going to be an issue. If we can't get the trucks that we need, so we have a list. I think you've all seen it of I think $15 million worth of stuff. Now we're not proposing obviously in one shot, but there are certain things that. Could you kick some of that this year? Yeah, of course. Could you push some of it to 2 years? Yeah, maybe. Until all of a sudden the system fails, or until there's a problem, and now it's it's the equivalent of the road who's now being rebuilt. It's now we don't get to do this on our timeline. We have to do it because it's an emergency because we did not address something. So anyway, my point is that you're thinking about bonding needs, capacity. It's also a matter of what services do we need to provide to the residents, park improvements. I mean, all the stuff that we talk about that we want to be able to deliver. We can't do everything. That's why we have a discussion over prioritization and where do we want to go. But there is some stuff that if we want to provide it to the residents, the only mechanism to do that in any significant way, in any short-term method, a short-term delivery time is through bonding. One of the things that we are going to hope to present to the council is, some of these bonds come due, right? So we talk about how much each year. I think in 2 years, we're still paying off the municipal building. Those bonds come off, right? I mean, because these are fixed term. So
Do we know how much is coming off?
we do. I don't know it as we're sitting here right now, but there's a schedule. So we know, they can project out. For instance, if we did no more bonding, we just stop bonding. There's a chart. It obviously goes like this because part of it's just how much you're paying each year, the $4 million or the $5 million or whatever we, in the budget, we agree to do. But these bonds are fixed term bonds. So every year, some of them just come up unless we happen to refinance them, which is we do sometimes if there's better rates and things like that with the refunding bonds. So what we're hoping to do is to present to the council something that is in some ways similar to how we looked at the road plan, which is if we were to bond for whatever the needs are, okay, the roads, drainage, parks, whatever you want to put into that bucket, what would it look like over the next, 5 years? You could do 10 years. That's kind of hard to project 10 years out in terms of the needs, so that we can get to a point where, if we're at that 13 number that Councilman Kirsch mentioned, if the goal is, let's say, to get to the 10 or get to the 9, how can we do that with regard to a combination of maybe putting a little extra money into the budget each year so that we're paying off more principal? Obviously, paying off quicker is better. Using more cash for the purchases, so we're bonding less, and then being able to come up with a priority that says, hey, if we bond at this level for the next 5 years and we contribute this much money in terms of extra principal payments or cash instead of bonding, in 5 years, we're going to be at this, whatever this level is, the goal that the council ultimately sets, so that we have a roadmap so that every year, once we have that plan in place, we don't have to go through, obviously nothing binds the council, but we can kind of say, hey, we've agreed kind of as a group, we think this is the right plan. And then every year we can kind of debate within that, okay, we've agreed that X is the amount of money that we can tolerate. We know what the impacts on the budget are going to be, and then we can just we can have discussions about, is it parks, is it sewer, is it roads, is it what those are, and we can make sure that the public understands what that impact is going to be short-term and long-term, so that it's kind of within, within a set plan, and we're not kind of guessing each year what's going to happen. The only thing we can't control exactly is those one-time things like the $4 million for the radios, or some short-term bonding that could come up, like the 1.9. Camp Cromwell's a challenge.
Camp Cromwell's actually baked in.
Yeah.
So the way that we did Camp Cromwell is we have a $4 million grant, but it's a reimbursable grant. Last year's council, I believe we encumbered $1 million.
Right.
We'll get that $1 million back, but only after we spend it.
Right.
And then theoretically, that same $1 million can be what I'll use the phrase recycled.
Right.
And that's how you get to the 4. And then when you're finished with the 4, then you get the $1 million back.
Right.
That's baked into the 85. So, and that was an important point for me to understand, because, I would rather we not have any surprises. I would rather we not, have, and this is a difficult conversation. It's a difficult conversation for us here, and it's a difficult conversation for people who are listening to it. I mean, this is serious stuff. It's all baked in here. So it sounds like, we'll all have to come to our own conclusions about the numbers. The numbers basically are what the numbers are. The concern that I have, and 2 weeks ago I was the only one in this category, was if we spend the full 2.5 on this ordinance and fix all these problems in 1 year, every dollar that we encumber now is a dollar that we have the consequence of from encumbering. We get the improvement, so that's positive, but then, we owe the interest and potentially the lower flexibility to bond for other things. So, I don't know if it makes sense to now pivot into these individual projects and what we're buying for the various amounts. I mean, are there any questions on the numbers at the bonding level, or do we kind of have to say, okay, how is this 2.5? What are the components of the 2.5 million?
Well, before we do that, I want to thank you for the presentation.
Yeah.
It was really helpful, just knowing about the 85 million and the 4.5 million. I mean, that's very, very, very helpful to me. And the breakdown of the 13%, very helpful. And I think the mayor's comments, these are really important, big issues and concern. And I think we've already delayed, I just want to confirm, we've already delayed the roads for 1 year. I don't think we want to delay the roads for another year.
We didn't delay roads. We did not delay roads.
Okay, so
Last year, the original plan was for $8 million.
remember that, yes.
For 5 years. Last year, we did 8 million, but there was some other grant. Part of the 8 million included some of the grants. Whereas in prior years, we spent 8 million, we bonded 8 million, and then we had grants.
So is that true for the 1.9 million? Is some of that road work that we?
That is all grants.
Right, but that's.
We
We
did-
would have paved those roads if we weren't getting.
The grant stuff, if we get the grant, we're doing the roads. It has
Part of
nothing.
the 8 million?
No.
In past years, up until last year, we would have done 8 million plus 2.
Grants.
Last year we did 8, but we included the 2
Okay.
because we were trying to cut back
And
on.
it looks like that's the proposal for this year too, because the road and this is way down the line.
Correct.
But it's 6.8.
Correct, and that was kind of the hope with when we committed to the road plan, the hope, and which is what we were largely successful at doing, was to say we need to jumpstart this plan to begin with, but also we want to avoid as much as possible roads getting, again, we get them to them quickly before they deteriorate. We've done that largely. I'm not saying every road, as Mabana mentioned, the pavement. There's a couple segments of still roads that are, that really need real work. But the hope was that you could then start dialing back the 8, and whether it's lowering the bonding overall or whether it's shifting priorities a little bit to say, okay, if you're bonding, or a combination of both, because hey, we focus was on roads. Now do we say we're bonding, less for roads and we're putting money into more money into parks, more money into the drainage projects. The decision to move forward with the specific proposals in 10C was not made lightly because of the concerns that Councilman Kirsch has mentioned and some of you, which is it's a lot of money. And so when we're talking about trying to decrease overall bonding, and we have other concerns like the other priorities with like the radios and things like that, it was not a decision lightly to say let's move forward with these as opposed to other projects. But from my perspective, they're different, but it's we made a commitment following Irina that we were going to try to start addressing drainage. It's been tough because it's not this. We couldn't do it the same approach. We tried to do it kind of like roads. It's not that way. It's such localized to try to find each easement that's not maintained and which pipes are not the right size anymore. And again, these are all super costly projects that are very difficult to do. But with these projects, the first one that's listed on there, which goes into the up in Spring Run, actually it was the first one, but yeah, Spring Run there. That is a precursor to being able to do the roads up there. And I think, I don't remember if they came in this year or they came in last year, but you guys may have been in the audience if it was last year.
Part of it.
Right. We started to do,
But
we got to a point where we just,
the east side was done, but the west side of
Correct.
development was not done.
correct. And we had residents that came in.
And some of those, again, they were getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but some of those streets, are on what I'll call the potential discretionary list.
Right.
But again, we still have to get there.
Right. And I think with those roads, whether they're done this year as part of drainage or whether they're like the next year's roads where, hey, we do the drainage this year and then next year we come back and do the roads. We can't do those roads until drainage is addressed. Whether it's simultaneously in the same year or whether it's drainage one year, roads the next, we can't skip the drainage part and then just do the roads. And those roads up there, the roads that need to be done, really need it. And as the council knows, we've been trying to do where we complete neighborhoods as opposed to, because it's always easier to go back once everything's done to repave an entire neighborhood in the future. One job, it's cheaper, it's easier, it's consistent. So you don't have neighbors saying my street, I turn one corner and it's now like a third world country. And then this one is like, brand new and sparkling. So that's the goal with that portion of that. The other two are addressing, the concerns coming down Brown Road where it hits Carteret and down there, as you can remember.
bowl is the
yeah,
problem.
it goes like this. And so you have, two separate issues, but they're in the same area. One is impacting residents, that it's really kind of two residents. This is one of those examples of where it is localized, but for those residents, it is a huge impact and problem.
Bowl?
Yeah.
So, but didn't we last year have that same problem where the people were in a car and they were driving and there was a bowl? That's how I
Well,
understood.
it's not as dramatic as that.
Okay.
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, so just to describe those two, because I was up there on whichever day with Mr. Pappas. And you have to go there to see it, because on the map, it's not intuitive, because Brown Road goes downhill from 206 to uphill at Washington Valley.
Of course,
But
I've
it's not
driven it a million
exclusive-
times, but can't
It's not
picture it, yes.
exclusively uphill. It
25
bobs
miles per hour.
and ebbs and flows.
Yep.
This particular place is, I don't know if this is an engineering term, I'll call this a bowl. So even though you think that water should be running down from Washington Valley to 206, in this case, the water is running from 206 in the other direction because it's following the curvature of the land.
So, but my point is, last summer, didn't we have the same issue where, remember when the I think it was Officer Ayat, I never say his name right. No, not that, he was the fire guy. Sorry. But where a car was driving down, there was a flash flood, the road curved in. They couldn't tell that the road had curved in. Their car gets stuck in the
That was on
in the
Brookside.
water, and then they had to be rescued.
That was Brookside.
That was on Brookside, yeah.
Right. So is this that same type of situation?
Brown Road had issues during the snowstorm.
Yeah.
There was a pile up there of cars.
Yeah.
Because then it doesn't just affect 2 or 3 homes. It affects anybody who's potentially driving down that road. Not that anybody should be driving down that road when there's a flash flood, but, we're all guilty of it.
I don't want to, be too sensationalistic. Brookside has a stream that's there, which makes it even worse. But there is in the back of the properties on Brown Road that kind of go towards that Carteret side. There is a stream that goes back there. There's a lot of water that flows down that mountain. So there's been times when you've had flooding right at that lull part on the property that is on the corner right there on Carteret and Brown. Next to the Quasts, I can't remember who that.
The road was closed last year.
Yeah.
When
yeah,
that happened.
Louise is there, and their property can get flooded. I mean, there could be a little lake that's there. So, it's absolutely possible that in a bad storm event, you could get pooling, down in that area. It could be incredibly dangerous for the homeowners and, of course, the first responders that then have to possibly go in and address what can be significant flooding.
Now, what's going on there is there is municipal infrastructure, and I think this is not an unimportant point for us to align on. There is municipal infrastructure, meaning there is a drain, a lawn drain, for lack of a better phrase. That lawn drain, either when it was designed or over time, is overwhelmed. And that's what causes the flooding. So we do have infrastructure there. The infrastructure is not sufficient. And I think this is an important point to make, where as we decide which projects we do and when, and to what extent, that there be a tie back to a Bridgewater responsible engineering solution that needs to occur versus, oops, this property is wet. Because we've got wet properties all over town. I live in a very flat area, but my property gets quite wet. You know, we can't be in the business where we're helping everybody be bone dry on their property. That's just not a reasonable expectation. So I think at a certain point, we each have to come to a decision and then collectively a policy of when will we expend the taxpayers' dollars to fix something, and when, unfortunately, do we have to say to a homeowner, that's kind of a problem that you bought into. Because, you know, we can't say no to everything, and we can't say yes to everything. I think there's a sweet spot in the middle, and Mayor, if you see it the same or differently, I'd like to understand that. I think that we need to understand, is there a Bridgewater infrastructure component? You know, in the case of Spring Run, I think the trigger is that the area is so wet we can't construct. You know, the flow is so bad in that area we can't reconstruct the roads. In the case of this area, you know, the engineering solution that we at some point put in is no longer sufficient. And I think as we look, because we haven't mentioned it, but the fourth piece on here is the 500,000 of what I guess is just being called smaller projects. I think as we look at those smaller projects and prioritize and size them, you know, I for one think it's going to be important that we identify which ones need to be done because there's been an engineering failure, or there's the risk of an engineering failure versus a person happened to buy a house in a wet spot, in a wet area of the mountain. What I'm trying to say, without being cruel, is at what point are we responsible, and at what point is it buyer beware?
Well, my question is, how long has this particular problem, we're talking about the Carteret Brown Road area, how long is this something that existed 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 5 years ago? I mean, how long has this existed?
There's been issues on this property that I'm pretty sure go back this area since I've been on the council in 2008. Councilman Albano may also he may recall. I won't put him on the spot, but he might have even been on the council dealing with these properties, because it's been to fix them right. There needs to be a commitment of capital, and unfortunately, I think in past everyone has tried to do Band-Aid type improvements because you want to make the homeowners, you want to address a problem, but you don't want to spend the money to do it. And we've been trying to, put Band-Aids on some of this stuff in a way that just doesn't solve the problem.
And I'm assuming this property is not in an officially designated flood zone?
Correct.
And just so the public understands, you can have flooding in your house and not be in a designated flood zone. It just happens to work out.
But in this instance, like Councilman Kirsch mentioned, that we do have, and we have drainage infrastructure throughout the town, and there's other we're aware of other projects that are kind of situation where at some point in time, it could have been 50 years ago, but at some point in time, township resources were put in over a course of time. Those pipes have either can no longer handle the capacity because of whatever, whether it's development, whether it's just changes in topography, or they've collapsed. They're no longer functioning.
At a certain life.
Right. That's it. I mean, some of this stuff is it's no one's fault. It just doesn't work anymore. It needs to be replaced. And like that Carteret area, there's other spots along there where at some point we're going to have to come back, because again, it's all down that mountain. So you have some of the pipes that go down from Carteret towards Papin and then kind of back up again, are issues. But for today, we're talking about these two, and Council President, they've been problems for a long time, which is why, despite the fact that, it's not a small amount of money, we felt strongly enough that said we can't just in good conscience put it off again. They almost got done last year, and we ultimately, pulled them, and that's why they're here.
Well,
Say real quick. Important to note, last year, we've paid for the engineering work to be done on these projects. So they've been designed, and they're now, for the lack of a better term, shovel-ready.
Subject to going to DEP, and it's going to be a pretty lengthy process. I mean, just because, regardless of how we vote tonight, if there's rain tomorrow, we're not fixing it tomorrow.
It takes time to fix anything.
And I wanted to add that in addition to all of the good conversations we've been having, it's gotten a lot of attention, 2 weeks ago in our last council meeting, and then obviously the press. And then today I received 3 emails about, I think most of us did, on Drysdale Homes. 3 different residents contacted me. So other roads are getting, flagged now because we're having this conversation. So I think on the other side of things, regardless of how we vote today on these 3, this last one, the communication needs to get a little bit better with those people also that are now seeing that we're having all these conversations for certain roads, but what about those roads that they're emailing us about?
Did you have a comment? Because then I do want to address that.
Well,
I just wanted to ask, since we're now into the nuts and bolts of what is being proposed, what's the level of confidence that the work will actually solve the problems in the Brown Road and Carteret Road areas?
All right, well, I'm not the engineer, but, I spoke to the engineers a great deal and also got Mr. Pappas's input. So, certainly looking at 1024 Brown Road and Carteret, they need to be looked at together. They are literally right next to each other. I believe, even though I'm not an engineer, that what we're calling the Carteret Road project could make the 1024 Brown Road project unnecessary. Depending upon how we solve the Carteret and that lawn drain, for lack of a better phrase, and get that water out and get that water underneath Brown Road and get that water out of that area, I believe that there's at least some possibility that we may not need to do the 1020. Solving the Carteret Road could solve the 1024 Brown Road problem. Yeah. So no guarantees. If we're talking about phasing, though, my preference would be that we put all effort into the Carteret side first and not solve the small problem that then gets subsumed by the big solution.
You're talking about the Brown Road Carteret as kind of phase 1 and 1024. The second one as a
Yeah, because what I wouldn't want to do, because again, resources are very, very tight here, and I'm not playing one neighbor off against the other, but I would hate to have us spend $200,000 to solve the problem on this side of the street, and then we spend $1 million to solve the problem on this side of the street, and the solution on this side of the street is so good that, because bear in mind, the water is kind of flowing, counterintuitively at that point. Theoretically, if this $1 million fix could work, we could have a situation where that intersection is dry, that street is dry, and then what's happening further, what I'll call up Brown Road, is really just runoff from your own property or maybe a neighbor, not an inundation.
So one thing that we could consider, to think about is. Council should keep in mind, first of all, that when you approve bond ordinances, we don't actually bond tomorrow. For some of them, like for radios, we might bond, bond council. But in many respects, what you're doing is you're giving the council, you're giving the administration the ability to bond, but we don't necessarily do it right away. There's some instances where for one reason or another, a project gets approved and, you see that it's next year is when it actually gets bonded because a project, it stalls, winter comes up. And so what we could consider is, I'm not an engineer. I don't know the answer to, as I sit here right now, to Councilman Kirsch's question about whether one could fix the other. I also don't know if there's any economies of scale in terms of, from a pricing standpoint of, hey, if you're going to be out there, do you want to make sure you're doing both projects at the same time? I don't know those questions. But before any money can, like anything else, we have to go out for a public bid. If you approve the bonding, we don't actually borrow the money until we need it. We have to go out and get the bids first. So what we could do is, if the council is, generally, okay with the bond ordinance as is, if you approve it tonight, that lets us get started on spring run, moving that part forward to go out for bids. We can make sure that from an engineering standpoint, we can go back and get more information with regard to, from our engineer about whether or not is what Councilman Kirsch is suggesting possibility. And if that is a possibility, do they have recommendations on phasing and, making sure that there's, we're not spending more money because we waited, but at the same time, hey, we don't need to spend it. That's also great. So we can do that, and then again, the council would have to approve any ultimate expenditures. We can get all that information, and if the answer comes back from the engineer that says, yeah, you really could just try one project first, and then you can come back and do the second one, we don't go out and borrow the money. It's the authority's there, but we can wait and see, and then if it turns out that the project doesn't work, then at that point in time, could be next year, we go out and we do the second part of it.
And it bears noting, all this has to go through DEP.
Right.
And that's going to take time, and what our engineers think is possible, they may or may not agree.
Right.
Go to DEP as part of design?
No. So again, when you're thinking about bonding, you talk about capacity, and then 85 million, 81 million, all that stuff, approving the bond ordinances doesn't increase, our debt. That doesn't happen until we do a bond sale. And there are times when, Councilman Kirsch may remember, where we've come back into the council and said, hey, we actually, there's unfunded bonds from 2022 because there was extra money left over, or we've canceled bonding authority because the council at some point in time gave authority that was never used for whatever reason. So approving the ordinance tonight alone does not spend money or so my recommendation, because I think Councilman Kirsch has a good point, I don't know the answer to, would be, in order not to delay the projects, which would have to involve, either at a minimum pushing off this ordinance, possibly having to restart the process, which would delay, certainly moving forward with Spring Run and with the Brown Road, Carteret Road, is approve the ordinance, as is tonight. We can then pursue more questions with regard to that phasing of the project, and ultimately, anything that we do is going to have to be, for expenditures, is going to have to come back in front of the council, and you have to approve the bid. So if you're not happy, if you're not comfortable with whatever the ultimate proposal is, you can vote no on, you can vote to just approve the contract for one of the two, and we don't actually bond until we get to that point. So if for some reason the council doesn't approve it for, some time period, we're not incurring debt costs, we're not impacting our budget yet until we actually bond.
What concerns me, and this is what happened at the meeting 2 weeks ago, is at what point are we painting ourselves into a corner potentially, and then we have to really start saying no to other things because we've already said yes to so many. The comment was made about, we're getting a lot of emails from this street or that street or the other street, and we should take every single one of those seriously. But what the administration did when it came in, and our team on the council that came in with it, was we got away from the time of the loudest person, the person that complains the loudest gets their road paved. Because for a while, that was kind of the way things happened. We went to a data-driven approach where we looked at the true condition of roads. Now, that was a few years ago, so we probably need to get back to that again. But as far as communication goes, what prompted the couple of emails we've gotten, I don't think is lack of communication. I think those homeowners were told some number of months ago, we're considering you, but they know we haven't done it yet. But the answer is we haven't we haven't taken action because we haven't discussed a single paving of a road until today. So, could or should residents, should there be a tickler where you're reminded, oh, if you haven't gotten back to someone for 6 months, remind them again? I don't know. I don't know if that's even feasible or desirable, but, in this case, those residents, I believe, have been well communicated with. I think that for whatever reason, they got impatient again, and that's why they're entitled to that because they look at that road every day. One thing I'll mention though is I drove over there yesterday, and I went over to. I also went over to Heller, which is right across from the post office. Sorry to tell you, Heller was like 100 times worse than Holmes, in my opinion. And I didn't have the cameras out, but just driving my car, I thought Heller was worse than Holmes or Drysdale, and that's the problem because what's that?
Heller?
Yeah, I thought it was a disaster.
You go up and it curves to the right, it goes down to the cul-de-sac?
The part by North Bridge is barely a street.
Okay.
Yeah. And the residents, I think, yeah.
All right, but here's the point. We don't have the data from it anymore because we did that road survey a few years ago, and unfortunately, like for a road, ugliness is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, you might look at the street and be like, wow, this thing is awful. But then, if you are, as we know, and as our staff knows, it's like, hey, it's actually not that bad.
Yeah, and I think when we joined earlier, this year, like the township engineer, he did a great job, Bill Burr, to show us the prioritization of the roads, right? So I think that's what I mean by, just that continuous communication. Like they it should be an engineering-driven decision why they haven't gone to them yet, right?
Oh, but we haven't gotten any of them.
Yeah, they told me clearly in one of the emails today that like it was the article they read, like, oh, they're hearing all these bonds are going up. When are they coming up? So it was the newspaper article they read that drove them to write to us.
Well, that's part of the problem too, like where you see, when you keep saying to people like, hey, it's, we're waiting, and they say, well, what are we waiting on? I mean, even, I forget, it was Bob again. Sorry, I keep picking on Bob in the audience here, but I think when Mr. Albano came up, it commented like, hey, I'd like to see some other roads. And we're like, well, this is not the road ordinance though. Like, this is not necessarily what we're proposing. But I think kind of bringing this back is when we talk about capacity, just based on the numbers that we've talked about tonight, even assuming that the 4 million in radios that we don't get any money back on, using what RAD 85, the bond, the radio is essentially a swap for what we're paying back, and the 1.9 is, we know that money's there, so the majority of that's coming back. So really when you talk about capacity based on Councilman Kirsch's 100 million number, the answer is from a capacity standpoint, there's $15 million of capacity coming within the levels using those metrics. Obviously, they're actually technically more, but from the fiscally conservative, responsible, maybe most not small c conservative, so the answer here is that of the $15 million of capacity, this is 2.5 of that, and I would anticipate that we would be in further discussion of the council, making sure that when we talk about the rest of capacity would be that we're going to want to propose another $4 or $5 million of road work, because there is a lot of work being done. Now, obviously, if the council comes to me as a whole and you guys say, we think 5's too much, give us your best list for 4, well, that's what we'll do. If you say we want to do 3 million, but we want an extra million, and we want to do 1 million of parks or the other priorities on that list that we put together, obviously that's what we're here to work with. I mean, I can't, this is not me just saying, well, this is what we're doing, because obviously I need, not only 3 votes, I need 4 votes. So I can't do anything without us working together. So it's a capacity coupled with a prioritization. And I think, the drainage is part of that. Roads, if we like to put a little money into some of the other stuff, but, that's of the 15 million, this is 2 of it. We're obviously not proposing using all of the remaining 13, right now, but there's road work that needs to get done. There's park projects that we want to do. There's, infrastructure needs. And, I think that probably looking at trying to do another $4 or $5 million of bonding is probably, in that range. But,
So, I don't want to interrupt you.
no, I'm done. I'm saying, but that's just kind of, that's obviously, I think where I'm, generally at, but it's not a hard number. I could, if council says we need more, we need more. If we need less, we need less. This is a collaborative effort in terms of what additional additional capital work we would do through bonding.
So I have a couple comments. One, I'm leaning yes, but I want certain assurances. But I want to go back. I want to backtrack. One of the reasons I'm leaning yes at this point, and I just want to acknowledge when I talk to Councilman Kirsch, I'm a no. When I talk to other people, I'm a yes. I'm going back and forth. So this is a very, very close.
Well, if you're yes, let's go right now, Council President. Let's go.
Okay.
We still have to have public comment.
But one of the things that tends me in the direction of yes is that and I think that the public needs to know this, the useful life of this project is estimated to be 40 years, that's good in my, as opposed to the radios where the useful life is 10 years. We're spending $4.2 million and we might only get 10 years out of it. All right. This, we could spend $2.5 million and get 40 years out of it. That's good. My concern, and by the way, we're looking at, the sheet with 15 million. If we did the whole 15 million this year, that only leaves us, and we're paying off 4.5 million, that only leaves us with the ability to do 4.5 million next year, because we're at the 100.
Well, we'd probably pay back 4.5, so some of it gets recycled.
Right, but what I'm saying
is we're closer to that
right,
credit
we're at
limit.
the 100.
We're closer to the credit
Yeah.
limit.
So we're getting really close. But I think what I need to get me to yes is all of those assurances that every step of and within the bounds of the law, I need to understand what further input does council have or will council have to say yes or say no, so that if we don't need the whole 2.5 million, we don't have to spend the whole 2.5 million. And that applies to the 4.2 million too, because in my mind, that number, justifiably so, you're applying for a grant, you want to make sure that you cover yourself, and if it ends up being more than you estimate, you have a little bit of wiggle room. But again, and you were talking about them, Mayor, what are those assurances that this will come back to council so we'll be able to say,
Has to come back, because even though we approved the bond ordinance, it's just like the radios are going to come back to us because we have to award the contract.
to each individual, it'll go out for a bidding process.
Correct.
Right? And then the lowest bidder it's not.
Lowest qualified
right,
bidder.
We don't have to necessarily accept the lowest bid, correct? But we almost always do.
It would be some defect. It would be a defect.
It wouldn't meet the specifications?
Well, yeah, hold on. For the radios, it's a state contract. There's no bidding there.
Right, okay.
But for the radios, the council would still have to approve the purchase. So if we all of a sudden said we're adding a bunch of radios on there, or you have further comments, you ultimately have to approve it.
Okay.
When it comes to the sewer, the one 10C that we're talking about, or the number 12C, whatever it is. Similarly, assuming for any material, time and material contracts like going out, we'd have to go for that would be bid. We've already done the engineering work, so that would have to come back to you to ultimately approve the contract, approve award of contract for the work. That stuff would be bid out unless we went with a state contract. We don't usually go with state contracts for those kind of localized projects. We would bid them out presumably, but either way, no matter what the procurement method is, the council would have to approve the contracts. So if you change your mind about wanting to move forward with the projects, you would not approve the contract.
Or what if like with Councilman Kirsch, like what if we say, we want to say, look, let's do the Brown Road Carteret. We want to have input in terms of let's do Brown Road and Carteret first, because if
Correct.
that solves the 1024 problem, then we don't have to spend the money.
That's right, you approve the contracts. So I can't, by approving the bond ordinance, I can't just go out and say, I now have a $2 million check from the council, let's go. I have to come to you and say.
$2 million of spending authority subject to approval of what you want to spend it on.
So,
correct.
right, so we could say no to approving the work on 1024. We could say we're not going to approve that
Correct.
contract because we want Brown Road and Carteret Road done first.
That's correct. You would control the award of the contracts or the scope of the contracts because you have to approve the contracts.
And we would be able to have that input intelligently, to be able to give intelligent input with respect to that, because our engineer will be back from vacation.
Correct.
With firm pricing, though, because the bids have come back.
But we'll also have the opportunity to have our engineer here and ask the question that you just, the issue that you just raised about, look, if we do, because I found that really fascinating, if we do Brown and Carteret first, is there a possibility that will mitigate or help solve the 1024
Or make the
problem?
1024 problem much
Right,
smaller.
right.
Correct.
Right.
So-
Tonight, we don't have the engineer here, but I'm more inclined to go, yes, if I know that, and we can have the engineer back here and we can ask those kinds of questions.
Yeah. So the answer to your question is absolutely. So first of all, legally, the answer is yes. First of all, because you have to approve all the contracts. Second of all, I give you my assurance, even if I didn't have to, I assure you that I will make sure that we do not move forward with those projects. You will have input even beyond what the minimum of the law requires, which would be coming to you with a contract and saying approve or not approve.
This is what I wanted you to say on the record. Go ahead.
So I will make sure that everybody is satisfied that it's not just me dropping a contract on you and saying, hey guys, yay or nay it, that's it, but that there's meaningful discussion about the scope. So if there's policy decisions to be made, you're involved in the policy decision-making process about what gets put in front of you to consider. And, and some of that may be out of our hands too. DEP may give comments that impact this.
Yeah.
Engineering, my understanding is that engineering design has begun, but is not necessarily completed yet. So when Bill is back, as soon as the engineering design is done or done enough, or he's ready to present it, we can sit down with the council members, in the office here, wherever the right, most productive forum is for going over all the options and those considerations, we will do that. But both based on the law and my promise that we'll go beyond that, you will have input on it. That's not an issue.
Yeah, and yeah.
Does that make you more comfortable, Councilman Kirsch?
It makes me more comfortable.
I should say, by the way, if for some reason we move forward with our discussion on other bonding items and the council kind of says, Mayor, you sold us on the drainage projects, at that July meeting, but now we're sitting here in August and we think that maybe the priorities need to shift a little bit from what we thought. Again, I can't spend the money without the approval. So if we needed to come back at a future time after looking at the engineering and saying, even though we approved the $2 million of bonding, we really think we should shift, some of it to another priority, we can do that. Whether it's, by canceling the bond ordinance or whether it's by saving, not doing the bonding and saving it for a future year, that doesn't lock you in until the money is borrowed and spent. It doesn't lock the council in from, still having input overall. But if we delay moving forward with the sewer projects, with the bonding, one, if we start from scratch, we'll now be, further down the road. And two, I think it's, unless the council tells me differently, I'm not hearing any concerns about moving forward with Spring Run. And I'm not hearing, the concerns on the Brown Carteret is
Clarify.
right.
I don't have an opinion. If we were going to eliminate a project or delay a project, whether it's Brown or Spring Run, I want that recommendation from Bill Burr.
Right.
I am not going to sit here and say, yes, with all due respect, as Councilman Kirsch said, he's not an engineer. There's a suggestion there. But to make a decision to say, we're going to fund this project and not this project, if we need to lower that number, I want the engineer to give a report to say this would be the priority.
Right. Understood. But that's what I'm saying is that right now, if we delay, if we council decides, hey, we're going to carry this or we're going to, vote no and start over again, it's going to delay Spring Run, which I think, again, I don't hear any objections to doing that. And it will delay us moving forward with advancing both of the projects to get to on Carteret Brown, to get to a point where we can have those discussions and make the final call based on what we get from Bill Burr and what the council wants to do. So we can move forward with this for now, turn to the discussion about roads and other capital projects. And what I'm just saying to the council is if in part of those conversations, you change priorities based on input from everyone, from the engineer, from the from the administration, from Mr. Pappas, from bond counsel, whatever. Nothing is irrevocable or set in stone in a way that the council can't have further conversations until the money is borrowed and allocated towards an awarded contract. I can't. It's not undoable or can't.
But let me just react to this question of delay, because first of all, there's been no delay in this. I mean, there has been light speed, because the first time that we got anything on this was on June 19th.
Yeah, I'm actually
I don't think that it was used as a pejorative, but I just want to be really clear. There has been no delay. On the part of this council.
No, if I insinuate that, I didn't mean to say that. I'm just saying that right now, if the council was to not vote on this, if the council doesn't vote on this tonight, if you carry it, which you certainly could do, it just pushes the project, further out. What we're trying to do is get the projects that we can get moving, because obviously the engineering department also can't do everything all at once. So we can get this moving. We can then turn to discussion on roads, on other capital projects. And this year, we focus on the budget first, make sure that was all done, of course. And, we didn't present the council with the bond ordinances until we got through the budget and make sure that the council had an opportunity to get more comfortable with the financial condition of the township. Obviously, with the 3 new members, we didn't want to. I did think about trying to drop a bunch of bond ordinances on you early and hope that maybe I would, be able to just push them through. But I didn't think that was actually the most useful, productive, or collaborative process.
Let me just clarify 2 things, and then I think we're at a point where everyone's opinion is known. The 2 points is I want there to be no miscommunication that I am trying to play off 1024 Brown Road versus Brown Carteret. I am not doing that. I'm trying to look at, and everyone should go up there and see it, and not just see it yourself, but see it with either Mr. Pappas or I'm even willing to go back because I could explain it, or with Mr. Burr when he's back from vacation. You really have to see it to understand it.
I drive it every day,
Okay,
a few
all right.
times
Well,
a
then
day.
maybe you're exempt from that need. But because as I said at the beginning of this conversation, if you look at a map, it looks like water's flowing uphill. Obviously, water doesn't flow uphill. So that's the other thing. The other thing I am not trying to do, I am not trying to play Spring Run against Brown Road. This is not a battle of the network stars going on here. I mean, I'm not doing that. I do have concern. I have had concern about every dollar we're bonding, or in this case, every $1 million we're bonding is $1 million that's encumbered that we can't spend on something else. That's the reason why I took the position that I did last week, that I preferred to do half of it now, and let's get some of these open questions answered. I also took the time to prepare in case there is not sufficient support to move forward with the 2.5. I took it upon myself to prepare an alternative for 1.3, so that then, if there wasn't support, we would have the opportunity in 2 weeks to then pick flavor A or flavor B. It sounds like that is probably not necessary, but again, I did not know how this discussion was going to go.
Can we have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Come on up, Mr. Albano.
I guess technically I should read.
You don't have to greet each of us again.
Okay, good. Do I only have to read it once in the very beginning?
You're good.
Robert Albano, 1149 Papin Road.
God bless you for staying through all that.
I actually enjoyed the conversation.
Good.
It brought back memories. But I also want to compliment you on the thoroughness in which you discussed it without any animosity or recrimination or acrimony. It reminds me of how it was when I was there.
We like each other.
Anyway, water flows downhill. You all know that. Water from Brown Road, Carteret, flows through my backyard. And the amount of water flowing through there in the last 47 years has increased dramatically. Yet there's no development going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that means there may be something else happening to water in this town, because I know exactly where the Brown Road, and you did say the man's name right. His first name is Arnie, and I know his kids, I know his wife. When I used to meet him and talk with him 47 years ago, he did not have a problem with water. So something's different, and I think the flows are greater than they were. Now, the water from Carteret and Brown and Arnie's property flows through my backyard, which is why I'm here, because the gabions that the township put in about 35 years ago have reached their useful life, and they have been collapsing for several years. As you may recall, Mike, as you may recall, I passed out pictures, but it has gotten bad, and sorry about the quality of this, but basically the gabions on the other side are collapsing, because when the water gets high enough, it gets behind them and then erodes the back, and that one gabion in that picture has gone from being this way to being this way.
Mm-hmm.
That's the water that's coming from what most of the discussion was about tonight. So I would ask you that when you consider what you're going to do with Brown Road and Carteret, consider that the water is going to go through the backyard.
So I just want to recap what you said. You're, if I understood correctly, I want to make sure I understood it. What you're saying is this problem has gotten worse over time.
Yes.
It's hasn't been consistently the same.
Yes.
And then secondly, that there were repairs there was a fix to it at one point, but again, that fix is is at the end of its useful life.
It was done in the mid-1980s.
Okay.
After many years of coming to the council.
Did that get
And correct me if I'm wrong, but please, I'd look for Mr. Pappas or Mayor Mensch to weigh in. This is exactly what we have in mind in that $500,000 bucket, right? These relatively small fixes that are become the pun intended downstream consequences of potentially other things that we do.
So yes, except that in this particular case, this may even be included within the scope of work that, because when engineering looks at like the Brown Road, Carteret, 1024 projects, they do look at what happens downstream, and whether it's the effect just from that fix. Obviously that project itself doesn't directly relate to the gabions, but if we can, we will look at the downstream effect and fix other related drainage as part of that project. I don't get your hopes up that I don't know, as I'm sitting here, not the engineer, I don't want to say that this is specifically part of it, but we will look at those downstream effects on any drainage projects. But on this one specifically is what happens when you fix it here and what parts come down. So whether it's included in the actual 1024 Carteret Brown project or is part of the the miscellaneous, it is always our hope that we can fix all parts of one problem, whether it's streets in an area or drainage, as one one project. And I think you're also, the drainage, the gabions there, they took a big hit during, was it Ida? What was because there used to be the rock where the snakes would sunbathe on. They just got washed away. It was
The whole base got washed
Yeah,
away.
yeah.
And it was undercutting the bridge, and the county came out and dumped in.
Yeah, dumped,
multiple tons of stone. Next big storm, most of it was gone.
I don't know how many words we use today, but a picture is worth 1,000 words, definitely
Come on
here.
down, I'll buy you a cup of coffee.
Yeah, and you got the young kids on the other side of that too.
Yeah.
The other side.
You got the family next door with the kids that are down by that river there.
Oh, yeah, my grandkids were in there when they were here in May.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing? Am I allowed to say that? What are you doing down there? There are snakes. They didn't care.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just,
Yep.
I know how difficult what you're trying to do is. And Mike, I compliment you on digging in and understanding what our bond ratings are. That's all good work. I'm sure that nobody's listening anymore. I really compliment you.
We could pass anything now.
Huh?
We could pass anything now.
I got a bunch of suggestions. Listen, if you guys are ready to move, all
Roman's
right,
gone. We're
Mike always has a couple things in his back
Roman
pocket.
even got tired and left.
Yeah. Again.
Michael was able to out-talk
We had a
the,
shift change
out-talk
here
the
with the
report.
police. I mean,
don't wanna
we've been
take
here, we've
any
been here a
more of your
while.
time.
poor officer that has to be here tonight.
If he's getting overtime, he's more than happy. He's all right.
And roads are important. Every time I hit a bad bump, I have to get a wheel alignment, $200. See you all.
Thank you, Bob.
Motion to close public comment and move for final action.
Second.
I'll second.
Favor?
Aye.
All right.
Before we vote, could we get either next council meeting or some subsequent one, a presentation on the problems that we're looking to solve or fund the solving of through this bond ordinance?
Absolutely, yes. I would just say, without talking to Bill, I don't want to tell you it's the next council meeting or, because I don't want to, we will do that at a public meeting. We will do it private and public, combination of both, whatever.
Prior to a request to award contracts.
Yes, prior to a rescue, absolutely.
Certainly. Yeah. I just think that for the transparency and for the information of the public that
We'll bring them here. We'll have it before the contracts are awarded, either at the next council meeting, whatever the right timeline is to be able to present the right information to the public. We will do that at a public meeting.
Right, and hopefully it will also, solve the issue of, we're not engineers. We don't have the ability to really measure the problem or the solution. So we need the experts to, not civil engineers, but need the experts to provide that
Yeah.
level of detail.
And yeah, the engineer, I guess, like you said, in the future, when he's here, just the risk benefit from his perspective would be nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we, delayed the project,
Yep, absolutely.
Well, I mean, just for discussion, I mean, because I don't want to be caught by surprise here. I mean, I would have preferred a staggered approach. It seems as though the will of this council is to do this full project right here, right now. Is that accurate?
We're going to find that out.
We'll find out how agile we are.
I mean, after being through this together, I think kind of a simple yes/no answer wouldn't be unreasonable. All right. Because my preference would have been to do this in phases, but I don't think I have any support for that.
Councilman Bacco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Isla?
Yes.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Geiger?
Yes.
All right. I know.
Closed session? No, I'm only kidding.
No, very quickly, though, on the discussion side. I don't. I promise it's not 17. Real quick, I follow up on properties destroyed. Our township planner came back with a couple revisions, which you will see underlined in there. I think they're all fine. At this point, unless somebody tells me specifically they have a concern, the expectation is that Mr. Corsini's firm will have a ordinance for introduction at our next meeting. All right? This is a follow-up. And the next one is also a follow-up. Had a meeting earlier, whoops, here, let me keep that one. All right. I know.
I saw the document today.
No, you didn't. This is an updated one.
I saw the one
But,
Travis had.
yes, had a meeting today with the township planner regarding the indoor entertainment. The term that came up with kind of on the fly is enhanced indoor commercial recreation. So we would keep the indoor stuff and then have a separate one for the stuff that is currently not allowed, and kind of gave some thoughts as to what zones. And then I thought it was very good. The planner also came up with, she'd like to expand it even further with things like laser tag, hatchet throwing. We talked about the golf simulation place that's really a restaurant, and that's their entertainment on 22. So trying to broaden it even more. If anyone has any concerns on this, let me know. Otherwise, we will have something to introduce as well.
There were a couple things that I will bring up.
Was that quick enough?
And we have an ordinance about the snow removal around the highway. We'll be look at that and, good. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
Aye.
It was 17 items.
Your speed.
What's the